for their playstyle. I don't think we could say the same for Nongshim. It's been more about player tendency and player strengths and comfort picks. And I think that that's okay to lean into sometimes, especially when the coordination is looking as good as it has in their last few series compared to round 1 in particular. We'll see what the bans look like here for D+. Might just be a little bit of a tier list takeaway. Picks like the Rumble, the Aurora here on red side.
I'm just looking at Kingen, like, stretching his neck. He seems like he has some neck pain. I hope some of those robotic implants he got recently aren't bothering him too much, as he is still looking to become a robot. We're still looking to get confirmation on what that means exactly. But yeah, maybe he just had a good workout or something.
Yeah.
As we know, Kingen does like to do that as well.
He
LeBlanc
does.
taken away from Showmaker.
Lilia taken away from Sylvie. This has been a really strong pick recently. The Yone pick with the buffs to the Q. Sure, the ult was nerfed, but I feel like Yone has been so much stronger recently on this patch. So common to see. Will be banned away in return for the LeBlanc ban. Ezreal taken away from aiming. That is not what we like to see on blue side usually, but I think with Jiwoo versus aiming, I think it's a fair blue side ban for the series. Aurora, Rumble, Ashe, all up right now, so you're going to have to figure out which ones you want to trade. Red side will get 2. So Nongshim can, or rather, D+ can leave a lot open here. And they'll ban the Ivern. I like that.
Yeah, it's a really good call. I mean, Maokai also available. They're going to lock that one in, but it does give D+ Kia a lot of choices, as you mentioned. The Rumble Ashe still available, the Aurora available, and they could just pick whatever they want.
The cool thing about getting Maokai here is that you get counter pick for either the Rumble or the Aurora, or potentially even a Corki if Showmaker was going to grab that. That's not really his style. Aurora is still a flex pick. They will have to lock 2. Rumble coming in first, so if they want to run something like a Kennen, even though they've already locked the Maokai in, that's fine. The Gnar is probably the pick I'm feeling Mihail is going to go towards, though, as the Corki does come through. So if Fisher wants to play Lucian here, or if he's crazy, the Draven, that's an opportunity that you do have on blue side when you grab that Maokai when all of this stuff is open. I don't want to say that Gnar is the counter to Rumble. He's definitely not, but he can weather the storm better than a Cassante, which is what I really hope we don't see locked in right here.
Yeah, I mean, I said it before, Gnar Maokai has just been a terror to deal with. Just the two of them providing frontline and peeling for a couple of AD carries. Now, instead of that, we are going to have Senna locked in here, which is pretty interesting. I mean, it could actually be Senna Maokai. I doubt it will be, especially because Maokai is just so strong in the jungle, but really does leave some questions. Maybe they just lock in the bot lane here, though.
It could just go like hyper scaling if they're, you know, I don't think this is good, but we've talked about it a lot recently with the Smolder mid making an appearance. Maybe you go Senna, Ornn here, and then, okay, nope, it's going to be the Aurora. I was going to say, you can go Senna, Ornn, and then lock in the Smolder later, then you have this insane scaling comp, but how do you survive the early game against a team like D+? Wouldn't have liked it, but I thought perhaps they were considering it, as the Aurora will be locked in, still flexible. Showmaker loves to hover the Syndra that he dominated on in 2021 all year long, but will not be playing it, I don't think, with the Corki already logged in.
Yeah, I think you want some kind of CC to allow your Rumble to just kind of lock in, and Maokai Sejuani, you know, kind of leaves me with a sigh because it's not very interesting or fun, but it is a matchup we've seen about a million billion times.
Yeah, and Ashe is still available, something I think should be considered here by Nongshim Red Force in the second part of the banning phase, because Ashe Sejuani is such a strong combo, especially when you have a Rumble. So taking that one away would be pretty huge. Can be quite strong into the Senna lane, as the Lucian will be banned away, so no opportunity for Fisher to play that into the Corki. There's the Ashe gone. Fisher may end up just playing the Aurora mid, but D+ still aren't going to take a chance on that Lucian pick coming through. See what the last ban is going to be here. Maybe ban a Gnar if you're feeling like that's a comfort pick that Mihail might lean on here. It's kind of tricky with the Aurora flexibility.
Yeah. That's always the case when anything gets flexible, and they're just going to take away Yasuo instead. And we have seen Senna Yasuo in the bot lane from T1. It was cool. It didn't work, but I thought they give credit to it.
I still thought that draft was okay. I just don't think it was played out very well. And it's good to consider that with Senna being a little bit more support pushed with these upcoming patches. We'll be seeing a little bit more of that style, I think, in the bottom lane. Poppy is taken away from Lucid. I think that's a smart ban because you're playing a Senna lane. You do not want to get dove by that Poppy repeatedly if they have a pressure lane down there. There's so many different things Aiming can play here. Can play Kalista, could play Caitlyn. Is looking to grab the Leona here. They want to know for sure whether this is going to be Maokai in the bottom lane or Senna support for his Zeri. Just want to confirm that before they lock anything in, you know?
Yeah, I guess. Wait.
It's okay. So I think this might be Senna Neela bottom with the Zeri mid and top Aurora, and then D plus like okay, we'll play Smolder.
I mean, it does a lot of damage as the game goes along.
This draft is silly.
You don't necessarily have to do that with this comp, and they are going to go for Kai'Sa, which I think is better comp-wise for DK.
It is very good into the Zeri and can, get on top of the Aurora. The Aurora has been shown, like, she has a really poor win rate, actually, in the LCK. She's 2-4 at the moment, but I think she's very strong if you can draft around her. They have good setup with the Neela and the Maokai for her, so ends up being a pretty strong angle for this pick. But if she's isolated, we've seen this a few times where if she doesn't have her cooldowns because she's trying to clear a wave and a Kai'Sa flies out of the jungle and gets on top of her, the Kai'Sa can 1v1 that. Even with the Aurora passive doing that health damage, she needs her abilities to actually kill you. And even if she still has her Q, but she uses her weirding, she's probably going to die. So I think the Kai'Sa is pretty good here. You have the Leona for some really nice dive on the side of D+. The Smolder pick, I feel like, would just really neutralized a lot of your early power in this draft and doesn't work well with the Leona. So as good as it is in terms of scaling, I think it was just too risky. The Kai'Sa makes a lot more sense. It is Aiming, after all, one of our best Kai'Sas here in the LCK.
Yeah, no reason to play around. You still want to get the wins. You still want to secure third place. You want to make sure that you're going into playoffs with a lot of confidence, with wins under your belts. Now, we've seen a lot of signs, but this one,
yeah, go on.
Simple, straight to the point. 1 D+ logo there. That's all you need.
That's all you need. Simple, straight and to the point. D+ just looking for third place here in what should be a simple 2-0 if you are a D+ fan. See if they can get it done.
We'll see what happens here as we're hopping onto the Rift for game number 1. Here we go, game 1 between Nongshim Red Force and D+ Kia. Match 79. After today, we'll only have one more week, and then we get straight into playoffs.
I really do feel like spinning in the mid lane is not good. You might get.
What about the Corgi butt shake? I mean, clearly better than the spinning.
Yeah, I'm going to have to lean on Showmaker for this one.
Yeah.
Or lean towards, I should say. Fisher trying to get some damage done here to Lucid. Proc that fleet footwork.
Did. I mean, they saw Lucid, right? I thought they did. Maybe they didn't. As Sylvie's going to have to flash here at level 1. Just a very awkward trade that we don't often see in pro play.
Yeah, it was really fun when they were doing the quirky butt shake and the spinning, and then it got real really fast there. As Sylvie is forced to flash, and now Aiming and Moham spotted on this ward. They at least know that they are seen. We're going to see a lane swap here into the top lane for D+, pushing the Aurora out of lane, which will really hurt Mihail's ability to farm off early. It's his first Aurora of the season, still a very new pick here this week. Nongshim did not play that in that series against T1. And we will see the Neela Senna lane try to get some push down here in the bottom side. Senna Neela, not the greatest pushing lane, but with the lane swap protection on the top turrets, should be able to manage some plate trades.
Yeah.
Aurora at level 1, roaming around, lower impact than most top laners. Like the Harpoon for King, way more relevant here than just a little bit of Q damage that she's going to offer. Unfortunately for Mihail, he's not going to be too useful here.
Yeah, he's just hanging out, stealing XP. It's a sad time for top laners when the lane swaps come in. We'll see how many times they have to die to pick up XP, which has been kind of the meta. It's like, okay, I'm teleporting in, I'm going to get some of this wave. Hopefully I don't get dove. And then usually they get dove and they die. So, well, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it's
where these top laners go as well.
Really tough to be a top laner in this meta, even with the nerfs to lane swapping. As you can see, the plate, first one is going to go over. It's not a horrible pushing lane there, as
so
you have Sylvie.
Where's he going?
Yeah, he's
going to take the red.
He's going to get away with it, too, because they're really indexing into making sure this top push goes off.
Yeah.
Kingen is up there as well, but this is going to be a lot of plate gold going over to Anila. And on the top side, the Kai'Sa is going to get some of that gold, as it looks like they're going to swap back now. This is feeling pretty good for Nongshim, as Sylvie's not only going to get the red buff, but will also get the Krugs without a hitch here, completely unscouted, uncontested. And D+, I don't want to say dropping the ball here, but certainly not doing their due diligence to check where Sylvie was, really just indexing heavily into trying to get Kingen up there faster into the top side. Because Mihail has teleport, though, he will show up here and will find himself not too far behind, in fact, ahead in XP.
Yeah. And Lucid's like, wait, where's my jungle? There's just nothing here. That's weird. And Sylvie, very nice pathing early on in this game. At the end of the day, I mean, you take a look at the bottom laners at least, and the Kai'Sa doesn't have to deal with getting pushed out of lane from the first 3 levels, which is really the point of this. They will fall behind a little bit, will DK in terms of gold, but at the end of the day, now you return to lane, you've got a Kai'Sa who's level 3 alongside of Leona, who is soon to be level 3. And now you can actually fight the Neela and Senna, which would have harassed you early on instead. Moham goes in for a trade. Probably not the best idea, but at the end of the day, aiming at least is able to trade back.
And not the greatest. Jiwoo with his passive also will get these levels in very quickly, so we'll often have a XP advantage there. And if you end up going in and getting rooted by Vital in these situations, by the way, he's playing the support Senna here, but he is an X80 carry player, so
yeah,
keep that in mind in terms of his spacing later on and the damage he's going to be doing. Very scary to go in as Leona because there's also heals in this lane from the Senna, albeit that, fairly small. You really just don't want to be trading too aggressively. They do get the push in, though, and no punish really onto Moham. He is going to be fine. Top side, I'm really curious to see how Mihail plays out this matchup because I feel like the Aurora into Rumble is a trade we'll be seeing a little bit more often over the next week and potentially in playoffs, just because she's also ranged and her weirding can push you away from the Rumble queue, so you can avoid a lot of that damage. Really curious to see how this matchup goes. We're not really taking a close look at it at the moment. Obviously, they're lower econ than they would normally be in this matchup, so it wouldn't be the greatest test. As Lucid's up here.
Where is Mihail? He is behind it, but now with Sylvie coming up, let's see, as he's just going to go invisible, and now he's doing a lot of damage to Kingen here as a couple more autos, and maybe Kingen goes down, but he doesn't have to flash. He is just fine, especially with Sylvie coming up. DK abandoned the play very early.
Yeah, and this ends up being really good for Mihail. Now he's kind of got some pressure onto this Rumble. And Rumble does have teleport, so Kingen can get back here pretty quickly, but still might even be some damage to that first plate, if not the plate itself, going down here. Kingen has to back down a level at the moment. As Jiwoo's going in.
Yeah, he is going in, and he doesn't really take damage once he does proc. I think it's his E that allows him to avoid a lot of the damage. So he goes in, takes a good trade, and there is a massive wave here. No jungler to go for a dive or anything like that, but you can see that even after the lane swap, aiming still struggling a bit into this duo.
See if once he hits 6, they can maybe find an all-in angle. Very strong with the Senna once she has her ult as well. Grubs are going to go over to Nongshim after that teleport back to the lane from Kingen. And with bot side Prio going Nongshim's way as well. I mean, they're up 1,000 gold here nearly in this game, and they might actually be able to contest this dragon. This is such a great start for Nongshim. And again, it's just once Snow playoffs. Who cares? No pressure.
Yeah.
They're playing their best games. Jiwoo does have level 6 here. I don't know if he'll really be able to utilize it just yet. But they don't get the dragon. D+ are unable to secure that. Yeah.
Saw the extra XP being highlighted by the Korean broadcast, just wanting to say, hey, it's Neela, and Vital's level 6, and Moham's level 4. That's a bit of a struggle point for DK. I'm sure as the game comes along, they will be fine. But for now, as you mentioned, DK behind the 8-ball here. King going to take a turret shot and nearly takes that third auto, but he should be fine. Trying to take aggressive trades, though, against the Aurora. You got to be sure that you can win those, otherwise you might be trapped and dead.
I like the idea behind it there, but there's that all-in angle for sure for Mihail if he does end up getting a few more of those autos in. See what Kingan's going to look for here as he does charge up. Just going to clear the wave. This is the matchup I really to look at because we haven't seen this one really all too much.
Yeah, generally both Aurora and Rumble are not available in drafts,
it's not allowed. But I do think that with the Rumble nerfs and Aurora's win rate dropping, I think this will be a matchup we see a little bit more often. Kingan's just going to clear this. He's got his heat in a really good spot if Mihail wants to go face checking, but he's got the ward in there, but Kingan doesn't necessarily know that. I don't know if he saw the ward. Lucid's up here.
I think he knows now. He just got hit by the minions.
Yeah.
But yeah, Lucid looking for a play. If he lands this ult onto Mihail, yep, he's going to land it. There it is, the flash on in from Kingan, and he is just so dead. Nothing that Mihail can do, even flashes, and he still dies.
If Sylvie was headed up there, I think he was starting to figure out something was going on based on Kingan's positioning there, but they didn't realize fast enough. Maokai's not able to get there quickly enough. And if Lucid misses the ultimate, you know, you've got a shot there, but he still flashes Mihail and dies regardless. So a huge win for D+. A lot of that gold deficit now completely shored up. Bottom lane, still a bit of a problem. Still going to be a turret potentially going down here.
Well, I'm going in, just trying to peel for aiming so he can farm the minions. But yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, this turret should be going down very, very quickly. Just one more push and they should get it, especially with DK's bottom lane backing. Yeah, so big win for Nongshim.
There's no really way they could save this. Lucid doesn't have ult, isn't here. We're backing right now. There's just nothing they can do. That's a ton of gold into the pockets of the Nilah and the Senna. The Nilah in particular is very accelerated, and that's exactly what you want to have happen. Sometimes it's a level 6 all-in, sometimes it's a gank that gets the Nilah ahead, but with the lane swap, she got a ton of plate gold there. Was able to get the entirety of the turret because Lucid's focus was topside. They got 3 grubs, and now they're also going to get this dragon. And the XP diff is really a problem here as Mom doesn't have Solar Flare, isn't going to be able to make an all-in happen. Both Jiwoo and Vital went cleanse as well, so it's really tough to actually find an angle to set something up here to defend the turret. It's a very oppressive bottom lane, and even though they get this kill here topside, I don't know if that's really enough to stem the bleeding here.
They saw him. I didn't even realize.
Yeah, I didn't realize that either.
He went straight over a ward, so Mihail knew he was there, but still not able to flash this. I think it's just a straight up mistake. You got to flash the Sejuani ult that comes in.
He flashed back towards your turret there. Should be able to avoid that one. And Lucid doesn't even have to flash for the player or anything like that. It's just super easy. A bit of a mistake there. And that is the point where D+ have a big advantage. We are going to see also Lucid coming down here now. Mihail coming bottom, so some gold being picked up from the Gold King. And no answer just yet. Sylvie's coming over, but he alone I don't think is going to be enough.
Okay, they're going to engage on a Sylvie, but now Moham is here, and immediately Sylvie's like, oh crap, there's 3 of them. I didn't mean to get into this kind of fight, but Sylvie's just going to go down. His first blood given over, it said, actually, over there to the Kaisa, and it is going to be another kill given over to Moham, as that is just going to be 3 kills on the board now for D+ Kia.
Yeah, 2 more kills. They were able to get first blood, announcer be damned, in the top lane earlier, but
yeah, that was weird.
Yeah,
why did they say that was first blood? We clearly saw a kill on the top lane.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with that.
That really threw me off. I was very not expecting that.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but anyway, I feel like this was Sylvie coming over to try to repair the situation. Probably should have played it a lot slower. If he can actually just keep them at bay or try to help Mihail clear the wave, then they have a much better chance of surviving there, but he just didn't expect the 3rd person to show up. And he tries to buy time with his ultimate there, but the aggro juggle is very good of the turret by D+. Mihail has his teleport back up, won't need it to return to lane, but he is significantly behind his AP counterpart in Kingan, who's also just weathering the storm up here. Poor top laners, man.
Yeah.
You know, you ever watch the old Robin Hood like animated film where Robin Hood's like wearing the glasses and he's shaking the can like asking for, he's like, I'm for the poor. That's like top laners like, please give me XP, please give me any minions I can get. Can you ult this wave to try to keep the turret alive?
Please, just 1 wave, sir. And, well, he's going to get it with his equalizer.
Some real Oliver Twist energy.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Showmaker's just chilling in bot lane. Just getting free plates, free farm. Aiming got some earlier on, got a plate himself. This is the play on bot again.
Yeah, so Lucid is, he's hovering because he knows that Mihail needs some assistance, but he's on Krugs and doesn't come over here fast enough and then just kind of face checks the brush. If he walks down, if he's predicting a gank is going to happen and he walks on, great Zenith play there by Moham as well. If he walks down through the lane instead of actually coming from that brush there, it's much safer, and he might actually be able to surprise them. Instead, he just kind of walks face first into his death. They're not able to save Mihail. The great Zenith Blade coming through from Moham to finish the job. The aggro of the turret is juggled pretty well. Showmaker going to deny minions and get this turret. Will not be first brick, but it will be 425 gold into his coffers. And this game state is pretty weird because it looks like Nongshim are ahead because they have a gold lead. But when you look at where the gold is, the Kaisa that picks up a kill, you know, the Corki that's massively ahead right now, and the Aurora being significantly behind. It's a Senna composition that scales. The Neela has money, but can't necessarily use it unless they can set up for a good team fight. I feel like the gold is somewhat deceiving here. I think D+, in fact, have a pretty significant advantage at this point in time.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that, at least on the side of Nongshim, I'm happy that it's Jiwoo who's playing the Neela now. I forget who played it last time, but we were like, this is a weird spot. Also, the build just looks very wrong. So I'm glad that Jiwoo's back on this pick at least.
Was it Aiming, actually, who did it last time?
It might have been Aiming.
Yeah, it might have been.
Which Aiming has had some item struggles in the past. This one, no different, I guess. But yeah, I'm just glad to watch Jiwoo on it. He's getting his Bloodthirster first. That's
what you want because you need that shield and the extra, you know, it's going to give you a little bit more oomph when you go in for your engage. You have that extra shield to survive long enough to actually follow up on it, do some additional damage. They're just going to chip away at this turret. Moham is flanking, but is on a ward. Sylvie's also shadowing this, so it's not risky. It looks scary when you see a Senna walk up an auto mid turret, but they had the setup for it.
Moham going in here, actually. Just trying to create space, I think, to clear the ward, but he's just going to push them away. Takes a bunch of damage himself, and now the rest of the team. Good teamwork there. Everybody on the side of DK moving in outside of King and who's in bot to help get that ward down.
Fisher's getting some free farm in the top lane. Went Blade of the Rune King first, which is going to be pretty helpful in kind of helping the snowball of these team fights with the Neela engages. D+, I think, just really don't want to take a straight-up team fight unless it's on their terms. You know, if it's going to be a Sejuani that starts it off with an equalizer, if you can actually be the ones to engage the fight, you definitely will opt in for it. But otherwise, if you don't have vision, if you don't have prio, it's very tricky. This situation, Sylvie's on this first, but definitely prio goes to D+. They have this TP as well, and I think Nongshim should be wary of actually looking for an engage. Jiwoo can't close the gap.
Yeah, Nongshim very split up here. They're trying to group up, and they're going to get that cleanse out of Jiwoo, but Moham in a bit of a trouble here as the Aurora does come down. Moham might fight the dust. Yes, he will, but Sylvie goes down as well as Aiming takes him out. As now Lucid trying to disengage here. DK don't want any more, but that will be a second kill going over to Mihail on this Aurora.
Yeah, so he picks up 2. That's going to really be huge for him since he was so significantly far behind him. He still is in CS right now, 46 behind Kingin. Had 2 deaths, but picks up a ton of gold off of that play. Looked kind of doomed for Nongshim at the outset, but they were able to actually fight that back really well because Aiming goes in kind of by himself a little bit deep. He's not able to then offer damage in the main part of the fight. Just look at how patient Jiwoo plays this as well. Sylvie ults first, and then you see the engage here from Moham. Look at the follow-up from Aiming on the left side onto Sylvie. But that means he's not actually able to offer any damage during this Aurora ult. So Mihail picks up that kill, and then Lucid is isolated. Aiming took so much damage on his engage as well that he basically was a one and done on killing Sylvie, but they didn't have an AD carry otherwise, whereas Fisher, the mid laner, offering a ton of damage there with that Aurora.
We're going to see the top lane turret go down, actually. Tier 1 here given over to DK. That Rift Herald getting some value as they do get at least a turret out of it, but it's not going to be dropped in mid. The mid tier 1 standing strong for the side of Nongshim. And once again, Jiwoo and Vital are back here just trying to push the mid turret, and they're doing a really good job. I mean, they have 6 scrubs.
That's the thing, and I think that's why they're so heavily committing to trying to push this turret down. It gives them so much additional safety there to push deep later on and to put the Sylvie deep into the enemy jungle as he is now. They're just playing through this top side. Here comes Fisher.
Yeah, I'm trying to go for an all-in here onto Showmaker, who will respect it. Does go for a flash, especially with Sylvie making his way up here. As the Nature's Grasp, he is under turret, but he's still killable as in goes Sylvie, and Showmaker will be taken down. It's 500 gold given over to Fisher on Zeri. As we got another fight in mid here, though, as it looks like Neela has pushed up a little bit too far. Jiwoo's going to go down.
Well, Sylvie was shadowing for their push in mid until he wasn't. And then when he went top side, he was vulnerable. He didn't have cleanse, so not much he could have done after being hit by Lucid's ultimate there, but definitely maybe a bit of a miscommunication there as they had that opportunity top side with Fisher committing. Rap should have backed off and been more respectful. So D+ strike very quickly on the punish there after they see the jungler topside. Good play from Lucid. Lucid, 5 assists in this game. Insanely valuable on the Sejuani. Play the Ruin King feeling really nice here. Not going for the Shiv first is going to be able to force Showmaker to flash, but he's still caught by the edge of Sylvie's ultimate here at long range. And it's at this moment, you can see the pings going down in mid, that they're like, okay, we got to go for the punish here. And that's exactly what happens.
Yeah, Vital's way too far off.
Yeah, he actually, unfortunately, kind of costs Jiwoo there.
Yeah.
Jiwoo's the one who doesn't have cleanse, so awkwardly a bit too far forward and then did his 80 carry dirty.
Yeah, it might just be a little bit of a communication issue. Like, maybe Vital's fine with cleanse and flash. He shouldn't have been there anyway, but like, he himself is probably fine, all things considered. But as you mentioned, kind of baits you in, as now Vital is in a lot of trouble burning down, but he is just gonna walk away and actually is totally fine. No CC layer for that equalizer this time.
He's picked up a ton of gold, you know, as a support who is a pseudo 80 carry in this case with Fisher.
Oh, he's got aiming with him, and there goes aiming right into the back line, takes out Fisher. There wasn't much of a backline because he was alone, so down he goes.
Yeah, they didn't know where aiming was, and he didn't have flash, so couldn't have flashed the Void Seeker. Once he's hit by that, he is definitely just dead. There's no turret to go to as Moham's going in.
Trying to go in here on a Jew. They're going to get the cleanse out. And yes, the cleanse has a lot of value, but if you can consistently force him to use it in not important fights, it still feels good for DK.
Absolutely, still worth, especially when you have this pressure on the bottom side. Mihail is going to come over here and try to answer this right now. But that is going to be the inner going down, as D+ have just played such a great macro game here. And Nongshim have tunneled so hard on trying to get this mid turret, but it's been stopped now twice. Looks like this time, the third time of asking, they will finally get this down. But the inner turret's gold is definitely more valuable. Aiming is already sitting on 2 items before he backs, picks up a Blasting Wand and an Amp Tome. He's almost at that 3rd item where he's going to have more Void Seeker's poke moving into objectives. As this is on Fisher, looking for a bit of a chase down opportunity a second time. Worked well for him last time, but this time, again, doesn't know where aiming is. They have no vision in their own jungle. And once that Void Seeker connects, that is the end of him. Couldn't have flash, so not much he could have done there. He also already used his wall ride to try to go in on Showmaker. So Zera, you often have that inherent safety, but not if you use it aggressively.
Yeah. Maybe just feeling like he could put on the pressure after getting the kill at the top and feels strong himself, but overestimated it as aiming the Gold King is on top.
And that's after the lane swap and a full turret worth of plates went over to Jiwoo in this game. With 3 kills and the skirmishing he's been doing and all the CSing he's been doing in this mid game, he actually passes him, you know? So the lead you had on this Neil, like I mentioned, it's great for team fights, but it doesn't necessarily last. And in skirmishes that D+ have been absolutely destroying Nongshim in here in this mid game, just not very valuable, unfortunately. And aiming is, you know, one of our best Kaisas, and he's making use of the gold.
So they're just standing on the ward, and they have no idea. They're still just going to go in for the fight. The Aurora catches everybody, but DK don't seem to care, as a lot of damage do go into Lucid and Moham, though, so they have to back away. Fisher also trying to go in with his ult, but now he's going to have to flash away himself, kind of trying to do it all by himself, and he will be punished for that.
Yeah, we'll have to use his flash. On the other side of D+, you know, Lucid flashing as well. Definitely ended up looking like it was going to be a D+ surprise attack, but the quick reaction from Nongshim, like you said, they were on a ward. It looked like maybe the surprise attack was still going to work, but it did not, and pretty good weathering of the storm there by Nongshim. Fisher a bit overzealous there. Did have his runins now, or does have it now completed. Didn't have it, I don't think, in that last fight, but I don't think it would have really mattered all too much. Going a bit too deep, having to flash means that's less safety he has, because he also doesn't have cleanse in this game. If he gets caught by Lucid's ultimate, that is the end of him. So they need to play very carefully around their 80 carries and their engages here. And we are not seeing the Malignants come through here for Mihail, so that's a lot of damage on the ground lost. I feel like in these team fights with the Neela combo, I'm okay with Leandri's first, but I do feel like the Malignants is super high value when you look at what they've put together here in this composition. A little bit surprised not to see it come out quick.
Yeah, well,
Cosmic Drive is still good, but
yeah, you would assume that he does eventually build that. I mean, it is so good on this champ, as you mentioned. Love the Abyssal Mask, actually, from Sylvie as well. Feels very good with that Aurora. Just able to really chop away at all the MR on the side of DK, especially with Mountain Soul on the cards here. Ziu is going to get caught by that in mid-dash. Doesn't even have to cleanse though, so he just walks it off. But bit of chunk damage done to Jiwoo, who does have his BT, so not really going to care, to be honest, as trying to set up here for this Mountain Drake is DK.
Yeah, Moam's a little bit split off. Looked like he was just going to walk straight into 4 people, but he does realize he can't take that path and takes the longer path around now. And what looked like a great Drake start for D+, they're now outnumbered. Showmaker is about to walk into a TP, he sees it.
Mihail's just in the backline. He's just going to be blown up immediately. Gets taken out, and now the equalizer does a good job zoning them away. A bit of damage is now on this front line. Noship's still trying to fight it for some reason. They have already lost the fight. It's double kill for Aiming, as now some big ones are coming out, of the poke from Aiming as well as he dashes into the backline. And this could even be a penta, but it is just one guy to get away. Jiwoo, a quadra kill goes to our Gold King.
Oh man, Mia was trying to set up a flank angle there, but just gets collapsed on. Showmaker's denied entry, but it just doesn't matter. Now D+ have their eyes on the Baron. Moham's already been on it for a second or two, and now the rest of the team shows up. So a big team fight win. Dragon goes over. 4 kills for Aiming. All this Baron gold. This may be the straw that breaks the camel's back here for Noship, because they were still in it. Their comp was still strong. When Mihail is chasing a Leona, I actually thought he was trying to get a flank angle there onto Aiming and lose it, but he was unfortunately just trying to get some passive procs onto a very tanky Leona and just finds himself way too split on his team, who doesn't have an engage angle for Jiwoo because the split is so good for D+. They're also trying to hold Dragon aggro. They were doing way too many things, juggling way too many ideas in this one, and Aiming's just like, all right, well, I'm going to clean up house. Aiming having a fantastic Kaisa game, 7 kills on this pick, has his Gnasher's Tooth, and even with that extra money is now able to grab an arm guard for extra safety. I feel like this game is has already reached its tipping point, unfortunately, for Nongshim fans.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, their team fighting has just not been on DK's level, and we've seen multiple times, you know, Mihail get caught out, and Sylvie had some rough moments, and D+ Kia, this is the comfort zone for them, with Aiming especially. Like, from ahead on a champ like Kaisa, he knows exactly what to do. He's got 3.5 items, went for the arm guard as well, so he has that safety, and now he basically just gets to do whatever he wants. I mean, it's not really a good angle for Nongshim unless D+ Kia really mess something up from here.
I feel like Mihail's had some really great series, some uncharacteristic mistakes in this game. Obviously, the laning phase was a little bit rough. He was low econ, and he got ganked. Not the most ideal scenario. Part of that on Sylvie's timings, but almost looked like he was trying to charge a Narbar in that last fight off Leona. Just maybe not a ton of experience on the Aurora just yet, but it's a very strong pick. No one has that much experience on it just yet. He's a very new player. Has his Cosmic Drive now. Just lock that one in. We'll see if he can be a difference maker here, because the gold diff is just so high now. Yeah. And it's not just Aiming who's big. The Corki is also an item ahead of this area as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of with you on this one, Wolf, with the Malignance. I feel like especially you want to get that ult up as soon as possible. It's just so strong. The Cosmic Drive, obviously a very strong item on her, and the Leandri's makes sense into 2 tanks, and Rumble's who's going to have a decent amount of health, but yeah. I feel like it doesn't really matter in this game, to be honest, just with Mihail's position in this one, but...
Yeah, I feel like the Cosmic Drive 3rd item spike feels so nice, because now you're actually level 16, you're in a position where you need that extra AP. It's going to give you a little bit of extra oomph in the fight. But the Malignance is like, okay, now I can ult every important mid-game objective fight, and I'm putting all that burn damage on the ground. And even if I die, my ultimate is so high value, whereas a Cosmic Drive isn't going to get you value if you get picked, that's for sure, but just doesn't feel like it's going to give you the same amount of utility at 25 minutes in that the Malignance would have. I'm totally fine with Leandri's first. I think that's totally standard now, I'd say. Like, some people are still going Malignance first, but I think the Leandri's first feels really good for a top laner. But yeah, it's again not about that, but just as a kind of scholastic discussion.
Yeah, Aiming got his full Zhonya's now, so he skipped the arm guard phase. He didn't try to build another item. He just finished a full Zhonya's. So
like, more AP is good, I guess. Let's outrange them.
Zhonya's has a lot of AP nowadays. Yeah. So, I mean, he is doing the Boom Boom AP damage alongside of the Boom Boom everything damage, I guess.
Boom Boom AD damage.
The Boom Boom on hit damage.
Boom Boom on
magic. Yeah, I mean, he's just super strong. Speaking of being level 16 and just kind of in your zone, unbothered, moisturized, that is Aiming right now.
It is. And I feel like after, okay, hold up. Maybe an angle here on the Showmaker.
He's just trying to turn on the Mahal, and yes, he has a lot of damage, but that is 2 guys. Make it 3 now as Fisher flashes the wall. Equalizer comes down, just kind of half-heartedly to try to peel, but that is going to be Showmaker taken down.
Yeah, and that's a big pick here. You know, he had the Immortal Shield Bow, as I don't know if you want to go in on this aiming. He's not going to. You know, he looked at his inner demons. He said, not this time.
I mean, it is just you and Vital, but I think with Dragon coming up, no reason to take that crazy risk.
Just save your ultimate for that and group up. You already have Prio. Be on the Dragon because your damage is going to be quite effective at rushing that one rather than being far away from it while your team is doing it. I think is definitely the right call. A nice pick there onto Showmaker, but unfortunately they had to use so much to do it that D+ are like, well, cool story. Showmaker's up in 12 seconds here. There's no contest of the Drake. Mountain Soul point here for D+. Already have 10% extra armor. This composition feels really nice. And the magic resistance will be good as well. Nongshim would have loved to have it, especially into the Corki and the Rumble. We have the Abyssal Mask on Sylvie. TP committed to here. Lucid isn't aware of it until he steps into this brush, of course, so how much warning could have given Showmaker. A lot of damage here. Showmaker is massively ahead of Mihail, like 3 levels up, but he just uses the ultimate and goes to the other side and avoids that damage, so gets it right. Still a small drop in the bucket, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, this feels like a really sad Nongshim game because after you watch them beat 2-1, you're like, man, this team could be good. The early game was good. They kind of botched some of these team fights, and it feels like there was such a good angle here for maybe a potential upset win in game 1, but now it's just kind of circling the drain, as Atlas would put it.
Yeah. I do have an inkling that D+ Kia are going to win this first game. It's kind of the way I'm feeling at this point in time, but
yes.
Unless Nongshim, you know, maybe if they get a couple of picks. We haven't even seen a Neela ultimate, I think, in this entire game.
No, I haven't seen one myself.
I just don't think Two ever got a chance. Like, there hasn't really been a true team fight where Nongshim are like, okay, Neela's going, we got Maokai, we've got all these guys.
Maybe you'll get it now.
Send ultimate over the top. Let's see it. Come on, let's do it. One time for the boys, says the root's going to come down. Equalizer, a lot of damage into Nongshim, and that is just Baron given over to D+ Kia as in goes the Aurora, and Moham is in a really rough spot, and now Mihail is able to jump over to the side, but they only get one, as Lucid still has his flash, and he doesn't even have to use it.
Yeah, they're just too far away from the pit to actually contest. D+ had so much control there that even though Mihail's ultimate is pretty decent in the pit there, it's not quite enough. They get the pick onto Moham, who's left behind. He's a Leona, but they get an inner turret. Maybe they can get more here. There's a Neela ult.
Yeah, he's going to use it onto Lucid and then nearly die. Not quite the angle. I think that's just frustration. Jiu's like, come on, I want to use this.
Yeah, after-shocked Pikachu face.
Yeah.
Goes into Lucid there. Yeah, I don't...
Is this an engage?
Yeah, unfortunately, if he gets multiple people there, I think that might have been an angle. I mean, they got the inner. That's still something that puts DK on -37 Red Bull power play.
Got it.
Too little, too late, sadly, and now the push is in.
King probably calling down the seconds of his equalizer, but unfortunately the timing not quite there. They could wait for the next wave, but it won't be a cannon wave with this Baron buff. Now -300 on this Red Bull Baron penalty kill. Power play, negative. Yeah, they're just waiting for the next wave, and I'm sure they will get into the positive.
They went up. I saw +6 for a second there. You know?
Yeah. Okay. Well, Sylvie's going to throw out an ult here, knowing that this is the push that the wave that they want to go on. But now here comes the Wombo combo. Not really going to layer it well onto Sylvie, who does get away with the Maokai Twisted retreat this time. And finally, D+ Kia get into the positive here with +200 gold on the Red Bull Baron power play.
Yeah, it's really just the inner that went down that affects these numbers. But they grouped, you know, heavily for that turret. It took them a really long time to get value out of this Baron. It's still low value in terms of the gold gained. The map control, though, can't really be overstated. You see all the wards that are put up here across the map. Vital's going to get some stacks here. Don't know what he's at right now, 132. So he's starting to become a big threat later on, as we get later on into this game, 32 minutes, I should say. A lot of vision here. Dragon's up in 60. And that is when Mountain Soul comes through and the game essentially ends. See, he's got 120 extra range, he's got that 60% extra crit strike. They just need an engage, right? They need Sylvie to set up Nila, or Danila to set up the big damage to come through from Mihail, and he can actually make an impact. I mean, it's not over till it's over, as I often say, but...
Yeah, I mean, if they kill aiming, that's a lot of the gold taken away. Unfortunately, Mihail looks like he might actually get caught here again. He is going to be chunked out and pushed away, and this is for the Mountain Soul for D plus Kia. So Nongshim trying to create some kind of resistance, but already a little bit behind the 8 ball.
Hanging on the flank here for an equalizer setup.
All right, they're trying to engage on a Lucid as the cleanse will come out, and everybody on the side of Nongshim just abandons ship. Just gets away, just tries to kite it out. Lucid is pretty low, and now the Aurora ultimate comes down. They catch Lucid. They catch the jungler of DK, and that is going to stop this push from coming in. Jiu also going to be able to lock down a kill, but that just gives aiming another one, and now potentially the snowball to come in as everything is on fire, but Kingen maybe disrespecting the enemies now as they push forward. Nongshim looking for more, and they're looking for the big shutdown onto aiming as he has the Zhonya's, but only the Zhonya's 1Q does a lot of damage, but it's only a trade 1-for-1, and Nongshim are on the push.
They're on the push. They're going to look for this inhibitor at least. I mean, there's 4 members down. Kingdom doesn't have ult. They might just be able to end this game. I think they can. They have a ton of damage from these champs that they have up and available. Mountain's Dragon denied. Get the inhibitor. Look at the respawn timer.
No,
I think
Mountain Dragon.
They definitely could have at least gotten that. I mean, ending was probably out of the question when the respawns come through. Maybe they even get like a little bit of damage on the turret and guarantee they have that prior. There's a little bit of cleanup that needs to be done before they get the dragon. But anyways, let's talk about the fight. They are taking the dragon, which is being contested by TP in live. So the equalizer gets low value here in this fight because they just retreat super well. They get the shielding, and the ultimate comes through from the Senna as they are pushed off of the dragon in live by single Rumble. Okay, I don't want to talk about the replay anymore, but you guys saw it. The equalizer didn't get that much value. The re-engage is good. There's too many 80 carries here for Nongshim. Like, they killed the Nila, but she's not really, she's the least 80 carry of the 3, because now the Senna has a ton of extra range. She adds a ton of damage into this fight. The ultimate from Mihail catching the Sejuani was the biggest part of this, and then they just front to back. And aiming has a ton of money, has a ton of stats. He has that armor from the Zhonya's and the activatable, but alone he cannot kill 4 people. As they they got the dragon.
They got the dragon, and
okay,
then they just backed away.
Okay.
Nothing really occurred, so you can see that Nongshim, they take a big fight, and they got 1,300 gold in objective bounties from the mid turret, inhibitor turret, and the dragon. So really making a big comeback here is Nongshim. I think D plus Kia, if you're going to fight, it needs to be a full committal, not whatever that was. Because like you said, Wolf, you're going up against 3 80 carries and Maokai. So either you're fully committed, you're all in, or you're just getting kited out and disengaged from, and then Aurora can push in, and you've got a Maokai ultimate to deal with.
I mean, the Aurora ult is so big. I mean, he went Zhonya's 3rd, so he just doesn't care about Malignant. So he's still going to have his ult fairly often. It's not on a very long cooldown anyways, but I mean, if you get caught on the edge of that, I mean, Lusa walked into the wall there, perhaps thought he was just out of the range of it. Maybe he was like, okay, I'm just out of this, but he was not. He just gets picked and killed. That's a huge problem. They have so much zone control. More than CC, it's zone control, really. They just keep this comp at arm's length and then pick it apart. I mean, if Vital hits a root, for example, that's a go button. You know, you're just like, all right, cool. Yeah. That's a dead Corki. You really have to be respectful here as D+. Now, they do have this scuttle, but otherwise not a lot of vision here. Decisive call here from Nongshim, but there's a wraparound.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to take a ton of poke damage as well from aiming. They got to be careful about that. So starting a Baron is very risky. You can see already some of the health bars being chipped away. It's not just aiming, it's also Showmaker as in goes Moham, the equalizer. Again, this is not a full committal, but now aiming going to pull the trigger. Big solar flare onto that backline, but the damage was not put in. Lucid super low, and so is Moham, and so is aiming. Aiming the first one to go down. Showmaker just throws his life away in the river, and Nongshim are just outplaying them.
That was a disastrous fight from D+. Very puzzling calls there. The Aurora ultimate locks down aiming, and now Lucid, the last to fall. I think maybe they'll get an inhibitor this time. Valdez off of 4 kills. Kingen once again the only one alive. The only one on D+ with 0 deaths. He is just going to back off here. Now, they don't have a wave to push through in mid, so instead they're just going to go to top lane. Remember, they still have those 6 grubs from earlier. They're making quick work of these turrets. They should be able to turn this into an inhibitor, maybe even more. But the Aurora ultimate locks down aiming, and now Lucid, the last to fall. I think maybe they'll get an inhibitor this time. Valdez off of 4 kills. Kingen once again the only one alive. The only one on D+ with 0 deaths. He is just going to back off here. Now, they don't have a wave to push through in mid, so instead they're just going to go to top lane. Remember, they still have those 6 grubs from earlier. They're making quick work of these turrets. They should be able to turn this into an inhibitor,
I think without Baron, it's going to be difficult. But
they could just kite down towards the mid inhibitor, worst case scenario. But I mean, look at this. With 6 grubs, they can definitely push the issue. I mean, Showmaker's not up for 13, aiming for 10. I think they just end.
Yeah, they just have to push potential, enough minions, and not enough D plus Kia. Nongshim Red Force win game number 1 against DK in a huge upset and comeback victory. As the camera's on Mahal, he had a very weak early game, but he was able to turn it around with some big ults, and DK just could not find a good engage.
You know, I don't know what the opposite of a bell curve is, where it starts going down. It has a pretty good start, then it goes down, dips down like a V, and then goes up. But that was Nongshim in this game. Mid game was pretty rough. Couldn't take the fights against D+. Mihal getting caught multiple times. There were a lot of issues with how they were setting up around Dragons. But then they got decisive. They grouped as 5 and started taking those team fights. You were wondering, you know, have we seen an elo this game? Why aren't they fighting? They're not finding these angles. And then finally in the late game, they group as 5, and D+ got super sloppy with their setups, and they got punished.
They absolutely got punished, and I feel like it's very well deserved. I think Nongshim played it out very well, and they baited DK into these weird fights that were always on Nongshim's terms. And that was fantastic. Like, look at the damage. Everybody did their part as well on the side of Nongshim.
You can see the gold graph is that V I was talking about. You know, there was definitely a bit of a dip there in the mid game, but they got it done in the late game.
Whatever it takes. All that matters is that number on the scoreboard, the 1-0 for Nongshim, as they get there. And, you know, this is a sign we could beat DK, we beat T1. This is Nongshim, and maybe they can do it. They start off with a big win. We're going to take a break and have the space to break down this first game. We'll be right back.
내 말 들어봐. 이거
맞아.
뭔데. 야 정태야. 너 런돌이 이퀄 깔면은 이거 대포에 텔 찍어줘. 이거
이거 그냥 하면 돼. 무조건 끝나.
사라지는 웨이브에 텔 찍어줘.
그냥 하면 돼.
끝냈어. 야 나 런돌 볼게.
타워 쳐. 그냥 타워 봐.
Or in a 2-1. This will be the first time since 2022 spring that they will have defeated 2 west side of the standings teams in a row. So, you know, essentially 2.5 years since the last time they've had a winning streak against good teams in the LCK, if they win here against DK.
Yeah, we'll have to see. It is still early into this draft for Game 2. It did not look like they were going to win Game 1, so you never know. But Lilia's going to be banned a second time. No Lucid Vi. These are expected bans, but with Nongshim on the red side this time, we'll see what they are going to do next. As, you know, I know it's been a sticking point of whether we like watching Lucid play Maokai or not. I still think it's definitely something you could ban here, depending on what is banned in return. As once again, we see Yone gone, LeBlanc is taken away. So maybe we switch sides and just do the same thing. Maybe it's just an aiming Ezreal ban in that third slot here for Nongshim. For D+, we will see what they decide to do here. They could ban Aurora if they think that's an issue, or maybe perhaps even ban the Senna. I don't think that's necessarily what you want to do in this case.
I like a Senna ban. Just a target ban against this team. I think just take it away. It gave you a lot of troubles. I think Maokai is really strong right now. I thought maybe they would try to get Lucid on it, as you were mentioning, but instead they just ban it away. They say nobody's playing this overpowered tree.
If you leave the Ezreal up, Aiming will very happily play it, but perhaps D+ then play the Aurora, and that's another issue you may have to face because Mihal had a really nice last team fight there, was able to catch Lucid in that mid fight, but the laning phase was really rough. You know, did not look very good, didn't look very practiced on the pick. See if now that this Rumble has been taken away, the stocks go way up. If he wants to go for that or if he wants to go for the Ezreal. If you think that Jiwoo banning Ezreal on blue side is a reason to believe he's not going to play it, maybe you get Aurora and Ezreal, you know? You go Aurora first and go, we're not going to play Ezreal. They banned it on blue side, and we could still get it. And we'll see the response here. Yes, Nefiri.
Yes, absolutely. Very common. I think Sejuani is probably a good shout. It's just another one of those strong tank junglers that is in the meta, and especially with Maokai out of the pool. Feels like it only goes up in priority. So looks like Sylvie's going to try his hand at this pick.
Sejuani Ashe here, and you know, basically lower the stocks of that Ezreal pick of the Kai'Sa.
And then you could go Kalista Ashe.
You could also do that.
You don't have to play Senna.
That's true.
I'm sure Vital can pilot either one of those champs as well.
Fisher looking like he wants to pick up this Corki though, but the problem with this Corki lock-in here is now you're playing against Showmaker's Lucian. And if you guys watched during the previous Lucian mid-meta, where it was not a counter to Corki, but actually just the S-tier mid-pick that Showmaker played every time it was left available, which was rare, he was one of the best Lucian mids. So not as big of a fan of this blind pick. Will be the Ezreal to come through first. We kind of expected this, because now you can't get a duo of picks to counter the Ezreal in this third spot on red side, so it feels pretty safe. I mean, they could go for like a Kalista here, but you know, we'll see what their answer is going to be. I don't know, if you really want to lock the Lucian now necessarily. They want to get the Leona here instead.
Yeah, I think that Moham's mechanics on Leona were very strong. I think his solar flares were in particular very good. I just feel like the issue is that, you know, the decisions on when to go in as a team, or like Moham sometimes is getting caught out by himself going in. That can be a little bit of an issue, but they're going to put him back on it after some talking after game one, as it looks like maybe a Jace into the Aurora. Nope, just Cassante.
Cassante pick is fine here, and is going to be a pick that Mihal has a lot of experience on. Hasn't done a ton of winning on it here in the LCK, but it's definitely a pick that he's very comfortable with. We've discussed this multiple times. It's a Lucian ban here. You have to imagine coming through. I mean, the Aurora could still be played mid, but you don't want to play against that Lucian. You don't want to play against Lee Sin either, so I think that's a wise ban. I do wonder, though, you know, I feel like the Lucian ban seems pretty mandatory here, and Neela's gone. I don't think they have to ban Senna necessarily here, but when they lock the Leona, you get to say no to Lucian, and I think they should.
Yeah. I like an Ashe ban from DK.
Yeah.
I think that's still something you have to look towards. I think Ashe can definitely hold her own into Ezreal lanes, especially nowadays. Can offer you some extra engage alongside the Sejuani, something we talk about all the time. The Poppy is going to be banned away from Lucid as well.
Yeah, really wanting to have a strong punish lane in the bottom side and taking away some of the picks that can really shut that down. The Poppy, the Lee Sin, they already banned the Vi. Just saying basically, like, we are going to have a winning lane into this Ezreal in the bottom side, and I want to make sure that Lucid can't punish us while we're hard pushing it. So we'll see what that pick is going to be. The Rakan is taken away. So Ashe feels like a kind of no-brainer here for the side of Nongshim Red Forest. They don't have to lock it in right now if they want to keep it a secret, but I don't think there's any secrets here. Like, it seems pretty obvious that you can...
Well...
That's a scaling pick.
Yeah.
It is good with the composition, but...
It's a bit more survivable against a Leona and an Aurora, right? You've got that dash. As Ashe, sometimes you're just kind of a sitting duck against those two picks, so maybe he just wants a bit of safety?
Well, he goes for a little bit less safe, but more good into the Ezreal pick here in the Kai'Sa. Not going to be a lane-dominant pick necessarily, but will be quite strong if you can find the Aurora or the Ezreal isolated, just like we talked about in the previous game where Aiming was playing it. As Ivern looks to be the pick here for Lucid, not one that we really associate with him. And he is going to lock it in. I mean, so much is banned away from him. And because they didn't opt into a Kalista lane or an Ashe lane, I feel like this Ivern pick is relatively safe, all things considered. And in fact, going to be Tristana for Showmaker. No Lucian in answer. A great side lane pick, though, here in this draft to buy time for this Ezreal to get online later on.
Yeah, double AD carry. You've got Ivern, and you've got that extra range. Wanted something that scales a bit better than the Lucian, I suppose. And it's just going to be a hard engage bot for the side of Vital. No more AD carry fun for our former AD carry. Yeah, the guy who's now support just has to play a real support. That is Rel.
Vital did win his last Rel game. It looked pretty good on it. I think might have even gotten POG. I know he definitely got some votes. I think he's proven that he's a very good Rel player. This comp in isolation just here for Nongshim makes a lot of sense. I'm a little bit concerned about the fact that Aiming is playing his other best champion in the Ezreal. I'm a little bit concerned about the top prio that Kingen should be able to get into a Cassante to then get grub control to then give Tristana a lot of split pushing power. Because macro-wise, I feel like Nongshim have really not impressed when they're at an even game state. When they're ahead, they've done pretty well. But when they're behind, which often does happen at this level of play, the disparity between these two teams, the Tristana just gets so high value when you're trying to decide, oh, can we dive? Can we catch somebody on the map? And then you end up losing so much control.
That is a true shot barrage. Coming off the page right there. So you can choose three things: win, or Nongshim win.
Yeah, winning, victory, or Nongshim winning.
Which one do you choose, Wolf?
I'm gonna go with victory. I know there will be a victory screen in this game. I think that's a safe bet.
This looks like a very strong comp for D plus Kia.
It's really strong, great scaling, oppressive on objectives. Nongshim here have some elements of dive, some elements of pick, and it's going to be a tough comp though into what D plus have.
We'll see how it goes as we hop into the rift for game 2. Here we go, game number 2 on the cards. D plus Kia move over to the blue side in hopes of having a bit more luck on this side. And we already like their draft. We'll see if they can bring us to game 3.
Jiwoo stopped heading down. It's heading towards the mid lane right now. Vital is surfing mid as well. I don't necessarily think we're going to see a lane swap here, but perhaps we will as they are committing. Fisher ends up taking this charge, and they are going to send the Rel top side with Mihail top. They haven't been able to set up any wards or anything like that as D plus were grouped. I think this is the opportunity Nongshim see because they were sending the Kai'Sa initially bottom, and then I think they were like, oh, D plus don't have any information. They all grouped mid, so they don't have any wards. We could potentially surprise them here. And so they end up sending him up there, and Mihail and Sylvie are going to look for the Ivern denial. This is a pretty smart game plan here. Great into the Ivern, and D plus just didn't have any information. Kingen showcasing that he is aware. But I thought the idea here and the concept was very smart from Nongshim.
Yep, Kingen did spot actually Vital, who had jumped over the Baron wall, so that kind of tipped them off, and that means immediately we got some pings from DK in the enemy blue buff jungle, and that's exactly where Lucid is going to go. Little ward comes in, but that's a bit late. Not going to spot Lucid on the blue buff or making his way into the blue buff.
I think they can reasonably expect that that is happening, but it's tough to go verify for sure now. And with Kingen here in the mid lane, it's tough for Fisher to do anything except just hunker down under his turret. We'll see if this goes punished because obviously Ivern will need some time. He's going to look for a potential gank. Oh!
The root comes in. I mean, it's more of just a prank, right? You're not going for the full-on kill, but you are going to get Fisher very low and maybe force him to back early.
So because Lucid comes over here and sets up the captures of these camps, you know, this is Sylvie's coming over to try to deny those, but unfortunately with Kingen roaming around and his passive actually pretty strong into an early game Sejuani here, he just can't do it without Fisher. And Fisher was chunked out of lane by Kingen, has to teleport back, and there's just no assistance here. So what looked like a really cool plan here is eventually scouted out by that ward you mentioned on the Baron pit. Kingen goes mid, and now Lucid is going to be able to go over here and capture these camps fully. Won't even have to use his smite or anything like that. There's just no contest. Man, they have full control of the bottom side. Again, I really like the idea here for Nongshim, but D+ just read it so well and countered it so well.
Yeah, now Nongshim are sitting their bot lane to, well, the bot lane. I don't really see an angle for them, right? This is 2v4. They have Sylvie making the way over. It's a big wave, but there's already brushes set up here from the Ivern. You're getting zoned off of the turret and the XP and the gold. Now Sylvie's going to make his way over and make it a 3v4. So maybe that allows them some access in.
Yeah, this is getting a little bit weird, but they do get the access, as you mentioned, with Sejuani coming over. Sylvie is able to escort them in. Top side, obviously, Mihail has had some extra alone time here, has picked up a decent amount of experience. Kingen got some experience, but obviously a lot of that was split. We'll teleport here and get a little bit of this wave. It's not going to be too far behind in XP. Significantly far behind in gold, though, with Mihail picking up all that CS. But does that really matter when he's a Cassante and you're a ranged champion? Maybe not. I don't think Kingen is too upset about it.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world. I mean, Kingen's just going to get the farming and should be very comfortable. Maybe down 10 CS, not the biggest deal. Meanwhile, Jiwoo, you know, denied a lot of CS and XP. He just buys a cult and returns to lane, and things kind of go back to normal.
Yeah, Showmaker also had some of his XP leached by Kingen, so he's down a level here, but the CS is in favor of him with this next wave coming through. Will actually take about a 5 CS lead. And Fisher doesn't have teleport, so very awkward for him. Not able to utilize that experience advantage really in this matchup, especially with Corki's health being nerfed. I really like the idea of Kingen just instantly running mid, getting power out of his passive at level 1. Sacrificing obviously a little bit of economy here topside, but just don't think it's something that he's going to worry too much about. It's not something that Cassante can punish really hard in this melee versus ranged matchup.
Yeah. Meanwhile, a bit of a fight over vision around the first dragon, which is Mountain Dragon, so no Mountain Soul this time. And we'll see what we're left with. We do have Ox here on the space, who is ready and waiting to make sure that it's not Chemtech Soul. And yeah, I mean, even the individual Mountain Soul not going to be too bad. Both sides have some form of tankiness within their composition. As we do have 2 plates down here already given over to Aiming. He wasn't really able to utilize all the gold he had in game 1. He's going to be trying to do that here on Ezreal here in game 2.
I mean, he did for a while, and then at the end, it didn't go so well. But in this game, he has Tyr picked up, has boots already. And he's, you know, just going to continue to put the pressure on in this lane. Range advantage he has over the Kai'Sa. Mihail, yeah, he was ahead on farm a lot. He is now going to teleport back to lane. He should be able to do so, and is Cassante, so it's not like Kingen can kill him without Lucid. And it's not like Cassante, if he loses plates, is going to be irrelevant because he's still Cassante. He's still going to be a tanky front line in this composition. But I mean, the one edge they had because they sent Kingen to, or rather sent Mihail to get that extra XP and farm, doesn't feel like it's really all too worthwhile at the moment. Doesn't feel like it's going to be a big boon for Nongshim just yet, or wherever. It didn't really get anything out of that.
Yeah. Well, Sylvie's found a nice little wraparound here, trying to get on top of Moham, who does have Flash and is Leona. They don't really have any damage because Jiwoo just got here, and now they're being kited and escorted out of their jungle. And yeah, it doesn't amount to too much. And Lucid's like, well, I'm just farming. Not really concerned with the aggression here. I'm all about passively farming camps and helping out the critters of the jungle and my teammates.
Aiming has level 6. If Jiwoo had 6 and could have ulted in there, then, you know, maybe there's an angle. But unfortunately, as you say, Leona's just super tanky. And Aftershock and Eclipse, and can't kill her in that moment. Good attempt there by Sylvie to punish. Perhaps Aiming doesn't realize, or Moham's a little bit deeper there, and maybe you get something. But comes up empty. You can see the gold leads here across the board. And Mihail still has some residue from the advantage he had earlier, but it's pretty small. As Showmaker, let's be careful here.
Yeah, I mean, this is just what Corki does nowadays. Just kind of wins trades. That's why he is so present. He farms up. He's a big force in the late game, and he can farm very freely. So, yeah, he will oftentimes win those trades. Showmaker did do a lot of damage with his ult, but still feels pretty good for Fisher, who actually is ahead on his teleport cooldown timing as well in case he needs to back and continue to put on pressure in this lane.
Exactly. Showmaker will be able to catch most of these minions here. I think the difference between the Tristana and the Lucian in this game is the Tristana side lane win cons are so much higher than what Lucian can offer in the side. He's not bad in the side by any means, but Tristana also has great skirmishing power with her jump resets. Doesn't win lane as hard against Corki. It's a very volatile matchup. Lucian generally does win, and if you win super hard as Showmaker and maybe even threaten kill pressure, could look a little bit different, but Mihail does end up getting control for just a moment, or sorry, Fisher gets control for just a minute, and does have that teleport advantage for a little while. Lucid's going to pay a visit, though.
Yeah. The old Ivern special. Let me give you a couple of things and help you win the lane from here. A couple of bushes, shields, and that will, in fact, help out quite a lot. And this bottom lane still going pretty well for Aiming and Moham. Just able to push Jiwoo out, not really able to help him farm as well. It is double cull for the Nongshim 80 carries compared to no culls on the side of D plus Kia. So maybe that helps them kind of shore up some of this deficit they're at.
Yeah, this is a little bit scary.
Trying to go in on Moham, but they see the bush and they're like, yeah, well, with Lucid here, we're not 100% sure. Sylvie does come down, but he's just gonna give a mean look over to Lucid and then just run the other way.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think... maybe the idea here is punish Aiming's lack of mana in this situation, but just too tanky on the side of this Leona to really get anything done there. And, you know, he's stacking a tier. He's going to have a ton of mana off of this back, and his abilities don't cost that much. He definitely would have been able to offer a ton of damage back there. His auto attacks don't need it either, so this is not really an angle, unfortunately. Sylvie has kind of been denied at every turn in this early game. Tries to set up the cross jungle. The vertical jungling is shut down. Is unable to find that first gank. Second gank is just outpathed by Lucid. Just no angle. And they didn't opt into the Kalista lane. They didn't opt into the Ashe lane, so the lane swap doesn't go that well. And then they end up finding themselves significantly behind on farm. I feel like the game plan was solid, but D+ are just so good at dealing with these unusual situations that they just read them like a book, essentially. And Lucid on Ivern, again, not common, but he looks pretty well prepared.
They're really trying their best to punish the Leona. It's just not working. I mean, they don't commit all that much to that. It's just a Sejuani ult, and they trade the flash of Moham, but now a chunk goes into Jiwoo. He's already behind. They can't force a fight on the Mountain Drake. You know, they were trying to get a pick before the Mountain Drake, maybe. Maybe Nongshim can do something with the massive lead that Fisher's getting in mid. Showmaker very low, but
just can't offer any damage back. I mean, the nerf to Corki was his health, but if you're not able to auto him and he just Gatling guns you down repeatedly, then that's not going to be a winning exchange, as Fisher did already teleport, takes a bit of turret damage, but should be able to clear this and get a free back. Maybe going in for the top side gank would have been a little bit more effective for Sylvie, though, trying to punish Kingen, as he is going to head back to lane right now. Fisher will get that free back I was talking about with the clear of the wave. Sylvie is counter jungling.
Yeah. I really thought that with that mid prio they had from that trade, they would try to
get the dragon,
fight for the dragon at least, but I guess with Showmaker with TP, they didn't want to take a chance. I mean, Jiwoo just feels, to be honest, kind of useless at this point in time, especially compared to the Ezreal and the amount of damage that Aiming is doing. So they don't feel confident in a fight there, and Sylvie's not able to get much else other than a couple of camps.
Fisher actually doesn't get the free back. Coming back a little bit late to lane here, losing some minions, not able to show up for this grub fight. D+ already have 2 grubs, and if they get 5 on this Tristana and aside, I've already talked about what this is strong at doing. So much this game, but almost so much this season.
All right, here's the fight. He catches 2, and Lucid just going to be burnt down 100-0. The Aurora ult comes in, but now Kingen is alone. They try to turn out to him. He's going to be forced to flash away. It's a pretty big win here for Nongshim. They want to go for a bit more as the ult's just not the prediction they were looking for. And meanwhile, DK are just taking the objective.
So they end up with an additional grub there. Not going to be the 5 they wanted. Still pretty significant. They're able to get that 1. This is going to be good in the side, but it's just great engages. Meanwhile, speaking of engages.
Yeah, just going on in. Lucid here once again, but now Moham's just going to be torn apart. Aiming doesn't do damage yet. I mean, he just got his Triforce, and he's still not able to cut through the Sejuani or the Cassante. So that engage very ill-fated from the outset, I would say.
Yeah, this is just very unusual decision-making from D+ in this series as another kill goes over. So Fisher's got a kill now, Jiwoo's got a kill. Showmaker's still going to be annoying, picked up that plate earlier and now has 3 grubs, not the 5 or 6 you would ideally want, and he is in the side now, but I want to see some, more measured decision-making here for D+, because we get to the late game and you end up going forward like that and making a poor choice. I mean, Lucid is playing Ivern, he gets punished, you're playing into a Kaisa, very strong punish comp here for Nongshim, then you can end up losing the game again and going 0-2 here to Nongshim. Showmaker does end up taking that turret out in the side lane like we were alluding to. This is a vital angle here. Forces Lucid to flash. He drops his shield down and drops Daisy, but the fight is essentially over before that even happens. The Aurora ult here is almost just an afterthought as Kingan's also forced to flash and weird away. And then on this second re-engage, watch this again. They get the root onto the Corki and they're like, that's enough, but he's Corki, and there's just too much frontline here. I mean, you mentioned the Sejuani, but there's also a Cassante here, so you just can't layer that damage into Fisher. I feel like just not a great target selection there, not a great identification of. I mean, yes, you got a root, and sometimes you see root, you go in. That's how it works on Ivern, but maybe not in this case. Maybe we should have just been a little bit more willing to walk away. Yeah, you could see the frustration about what happened in that last fight.
Absolutely. As we know now, not really the play. They thought they had an angle onto Corki, but as you mentioned, well, he's Corki, so he just Valkyrie's away and he's got bodyguards, and it ends up another kill for Nongshim. D+ Kia do pick up this Rift Herald. Probably gonna look to drop this either in mid and top. They do break down the First Blood turret in the bottom lane, so maybe if you get some kind of push there, perhaps you can get Showmaker some extra gold, but as it stands now, it's actually Fisher and Sylvie trying to push for this bottom tier 1 themselves.
Well, there's an Ivern in the game with Redemption. It's Hextech and Mountain. I feel like we're getting Chemtech Soul in this one. Just feels like it's destiny. I still think the game state is very good for D+. They have a lot of great win cons. Their comp is insanely robust. So hard to challenge on objectives. As long as they play a little bit more, slowly, a little bit more carefully. It does feel like they have the better comp in this one as Fisher is...
Yeah, all right.
Vital's here,
okay.
too.
He's really trying to clear the wave, I guess, to not get dove. Well, he's still in a lot of trouble here, but now he doesn't have assault, and he's just going to be CC'd 100-0. It does take quite a while, but it's still a kill given over to the Corki. Meanwhile, though, DK pushing in mid. They're going to get this tier 1 and maybe a bit more.
Yeah, putting the extra charge through here for Lucid. No one there for the punish. Tristana also pushing in the top side, so... every action you make in League of Legends has an equal and opposite reaction, but in this case, two opposite reactions, which is several turrets
breaking the laws of physics as we speak.
Newton was wrong, apparently, so I guess maybe Kingan ulting that wave to die was definitely the right choice because it bought just such an insane amount of time as Showmaker is side lane Tristana. And I thought we were kind of done talking about it, but, she's back in this game, and she's doing it.
This always happens, especially with champs that were already really strong. They get like a tap, and it's a decent tap that was done to both Tristana, Corki, whatever, and they're just still broken. They're just still good, but teams in the LCK are like, I'm not sure. They got nerfed.
So look at
they want to play it.
Look at the lack of vision for Kingan here in his jungle. He sees it's a cannon wave, and he's like, I'm going to get dove. Like, he doesn't even have vision yet at this moment that anyone's coming. But he has such good game sense to know, okay, this is what's happening. Tristana is hard pushing top, no one's there. We're hard pushing mid with a Rift Herald, no one's there. They're ganking me, I'm going to clear this wave, keep pushing. And even though he dies there, buys a significant amount of time, pulls all those resources down, and it's a huge win for D+. So we'll get the second dragon. Oh, it's Infernal. Wow, what a pleasant surprise.
That's very anti-Ivern. He's a tree. He doesn't very much like fire.
Yeah.
He doesn't do a lot of damage. It's very, very weird. Maybe because you mentioned it, Wolf. They're trying to gank here on a Showmaker who's just going to push Vital away and says, no thank you, I would not like to get dove.
Yeah, they aren't going to get a huge cross map out of it this time with the heavy commitment by Nongshim. But still, nonetheless, pretty good.
Moham's just kind of running through the dark jungle here. He is going to get a big heal in a moment, as now the counter engage does come in. Gio in a bit of trouble, has to flash away. Now trying to get on top of Moham. Meanwhile, we got a fight up the left here. As Kingen getting very low. He is going to be pulled in and nearly taken down. A lot of low health bars here. Nomesim trying to run away now, as Showmaker and Aiming with the Ivern are still very scary. They will get pressured away.
They certainly will. So very close call there on the retreat for Nomesim, but still a nice pick there, as Moham has been called out a few times this series, and now Showmaker all alone here in the top side trying to push this wave out. They are not done.
Yeah, he does not have his ult back. He does have a flash and a hop, and that will be enough to get him out, especially with this tier 1 and an Ivern nearby, and Aiming making his way up to the top lane. As Fisher, he's like, no, I'm not dodging, I just gotta run. Here comes Aiming, looking maybe for the angle. And there it is, the arcane shift forward. He is just gonna get stunned up, and Vital's just running away, but it's significant poke, as once again DK will maintain map pressure.
Yeah, Sylvie was bottom side, unable to clean anything up here, and this is just a Tristana unlocked to do more damage to turret. That is what she is doing in this game, pushing lanes and taking out turrets. Moham is denying any flanks here, as Mihail's going to try to go in.
Yeah, we got a Fisher flank here from a Corky. I don't know about this, as the Solar Flare's going to miss another roll. Comes on in, right on top of the Tristana. They're going to catch DK with their pants down. Is now Aiming in a bit of trouble, but he does have the Ivern to help him out. Moham going to get a little bit of help from Daisy, and now Kingen makes his way over and should be able to zone them away, but it's a kill over to Nomesim. Still, DK have 0 kills in this game. They're looking for their first one, and they might get it here, as Vital will finally go down. Mihail is just going to run away from this one, but he can't get away from the Ezreal, as Aiming picks up the double.
You can take out Showmaker, but there's another 80 carry there, and the health bars are so low after Kingen's ult that it's easy cleanup. As Sylvie, this is greedy.
Well, if they just assume they're not there, maybe they're not there, but they were there. It turns out, as Aiming going to pick up another kill. Make it 3.
Well, this is suddenly a disaster, because it looked so good for Nomesim on the pick, but unfortunately this Leona is so tanky that it really sets up a tough follow-up. It's like, okay, we got the Tristana, can we get the Ezreal? He's super mobile. There's a great front line here. There's shielding, there's redemption. So you go all the way back to this play, Moham getting caught. Nothing Lucid can really do for him here. They commit the teleport from Showmaker, but ultimately, you know, as this fight extends, he does go down. See Fisher coming in on this cross as well. It makes it really difficult to chase. The all-out from Mihail also buys him some good space, because maybe otherwise they end up getting something out of this. As we go back into the top side play here, Moham kind of holding guard on the edge is so critical. And yes, Showmaker's already used his hop here, so when Fisher shows up, Mihail ends up getting on top of him, takes so much damage, gets stunned here. The engage from Vital is perfect. But look at Aiming. They think they can catch him, but he actually flashes, gets the redemption, and this should be the end of the play. Unfortunately, though, they just keep chasing into Aiming, and Moham is, again, just kind of holding this angle. He's
Aurora.
And then he gets to re-engage. The Aurora is here, and Aiming can clean up.
Yep, they get caught out. They were already pretty low on their health bars. They say, hey, it's 5v4, we can definitely push this, but... And then this happens, which, I mean, kind of rough. No vision, and DK able to punish.
Yeah, this is really unfortunate. I think just kind of tunneling in frustration after the failed chase down there. When you get Aiming sums, you know, that's a big win. That's going to be something that's valuable for the next fight, the next skirmish. I mean, Dragon's up in 30 seconds here. They had just been happy with that and backed away. It still feel like a win, but they really wanted more. As Kingen is, you know, with the ult at the ready here. He's respected.
And he mentioned that we actually don't have Moonstone here for Lucid. He went for Mikhail's, which... I mean, Aiming's got Cleanse, but Showmaker doesn't, so you can cleanse the Sejuani ult, yes, but as Ox mentioned before, the Rel a little bit more difficult to handle, and they don't have Moonstone. So now it's just going to be Kingen dying. This has been more and more side lane pressure from Nomesim. They're going to get another kill here, and now maybe threaten Baron.
Yeah, it's Operation Kill Side Laner. Specifically laner in top lane has been the game plan for Nomesim. And as Baron is up, like you say, this pick leads to an opportunity here. Teleport coming through from Mihail onto this ward, try to keep them at bay. Showmaker is going to TP in, but it's very late.
Yeah, it's very late. He didn't want to commit to it. This is just a free Baron given over to them. Lucid cannot get into the pit, and now they're trying to engage here. 5v4 Arnox, and the knockup comes in, and down goes Leona. Down falls the Ivern, and Showmaker and Aiming, the 280 carries are left alone. Trying to get some miraculous play here. They might be able to, but it's just a bit of poke, and that is it. Nongshim will look to back away with 5 members worth of Baron.
It's a decisive call from Nongshim, but the answer from D+ is anything but. Showmaker doesn't want to commit, doesn't want to come over, and that is just the time that they needed. Now he's down TP. They will be able to get Soul Point for this, which is Infernal Soul, so very significant in terms of what they get in return, but Nongshim take a gold lead in this game now, and these fights are not very convincing, Valdez. I mean, you're looking at Fisher, 4 kills, Kaisa, 4 kills, about to have that Nashor's Tooth and the additional poke, and D+ may have just tossed this one to the wind. It's not over yet, but Nongshim, with the way they're playing and how decisive they've been, it's kind of a shock to see them kind of run D+ around the map like this, and D+ being so indecisive means they're also going to potentially lose this inner. They will.
Yeah, I mean, this is a little bit of what we saw in game 1 as well. You know, when the pressure came on, it was just Nongshim who had better team fighting by the end of it all, and they were able to utilize their carries to do a good job of carrying in the late game, and it's a similar spot here where Nongshim have 2 fed carries. It's no Senna, but it's Kaisa and Corki, and there's only really Aiming on the side of DK. And you've also got Ivern, which is only going to bolster your 80 carries basically and heal them up, but he doesn't have Moonstone, as I mentioned before. And Showmaker isn't really a champ right now. Like, he pushes turrets. That's kind of what he does. And he's just not nearly as fed as the other 80 carries in this game.
Mihail is very, very strong at this point in time, like considering how his lane went, right? We talked about it, you know, you're going to get bullied a little bit in the lane, but he's still a great front line, and you have the Sejuani as well, so it's tough for Showmaker to actually get that first kill, get that first reset, and if you're having these sloppy team fights, you're going to get punched. This is how it all starts off, right? Look at where Showmaker is. We talked about Tristana side laning, but he's taken it to the extreme, right? And then at this moment in time, he could TP in, or moments before he could have TP'd in, but waits until after the Cassante is already here.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is just a fantastic ult onto Lucid as well. Redemption is not going to be enough to save him or anybody, and Aiming, he needs more time. Like, if Aiming is able to show up quickly to the Baron and do a ton of poke damage before the Baron fight starts off, and then you have that late TP from Showmaker and he cleans up against the jump resets, it's totally fine, but I think D+ just really did not expect Nongshim to be playing this decisively around these picks in the side, and they are, and now they're ahead.
Yeah, it's just kind of, this whole week is like the lower teams that are dropping out of playoffs just rising up, and nobody expects it. They're like, this team doesn't know how to play late game. They don't know how to macro as well as us, and they're just proving everybody wrong, because Nongshim, they beat T1, they gained some extra confidence, they're learning how to win in some of those late game situations, and they're doing it again against D+ Kia.
That's right, Eastside teams rise up.
And it's not over, but you're exactly right. I mean, it just feels like DK are kind of, it's like they're always taking a half measure. They're not fully committed to any of their fights. Like, imagine if they just said, okay, well, we kind of screwed up. Kingen got picked. Let's just back away. And, like, maybe Aiming stops the back. Maybe, like, Showmaker gets a bunch of value in the side lane, takes out an inner.
Oh.
It could have looked different than what we saw, which was kind of a half-hearted team fight on the Baron 4v5 with the late TP.
Yeah.
So
Can't get that one from the Gold King Vital. And yeah, I mean, I wonder how the next fight is going to go, because now Nongshim have a decent amount of map control, really for the first time. As you can see, they're utilizing it here.
Yeah,
We'll let that one...
Aurora can go over walls.
Yeah, that one slide.
We're all learning here. It's okay.
I think that the scary part about this is if D+ are going to be indecisive as well, and the Ivern comps, the early game was played really well from Lucid. We'll see how he can manage his brushes for objective control later on, because that's really what's key, because they can actually get Infernal Soul off of this next dragon. If he can set up well for that, put up the brushes, and then they slowly catch the engage from Nongshim, feels great. But if Nongshim get to this dragon first, and the brush setup isn't good, and we're seeing poke come through for Gio, who now has his Nashor's Tooth online, I mean, D+ really don't have a strong neutral fight here. I mean, Aiming has some poke, but he will be outranged by the Kaisa, and there's a tanky front line that could absorb some of his Q damage. pushing this wave in, now getting that control, really important. Aiming's going to decide to back here. They still have a minute of time before this dragon spawns. They're going to look for those backs, looking for the LDR.
He's backing on a ward.
Or Sorel does, excuse me.
He's going to scan it. So Moham is going to be engaged on here as, yeah, just a bit of an issue, not respecting the wardage. And the rest of the team is like, man, we can't help you. That's just Moham down, and it might just be the dragon surrendered to Nomshim.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there's no trade for Baron here, as the Baron is 20 seconds behind. It's going to be really tough to actually pull that one off, as they have this wave pushed in. I guess the idea there for Moham was like, there's no way they're all on Dragon, right? Because it's way too early. They're not going to be in this area, but you didn't have vision, and no one was showing inside, so you have to assume, where are they? And he's just way too far out. Now, D+ pushing towards control of the Baron right now, but Nongshim have a comp that could rush this down relatively quickly and then come over to punish. I feel like the options here for D+ are just super limited. Moham has respawned. He is rushing back into the mid lane here, but punishing this with no brush setup here for the Ivern is just going to be so tricky, and I just don't think you can pull it off. They're going to send Showmaker to try to take out that inner turret and top. That was a nice try, but now Nongshim are like, cool, we defend this turret, and we set up for the Baron contest.
We'll see if they can defend this as the satchel does go off. Well, that's a different champion, but now Kingen just kind of running through the jungle once again, and there is a sneaky Cassante in the jungle, and they just ran through the dark jungle, as now Showmaker has to flash to get away, and again, Nomshim are up a man here going into Baron.
Yeah, no Kingen ult for this fight is massive, and Aiming doesn't have brush set up towards the objective. They have to try to leap forward slowly and carefully. Watch those arcane shift saving. I don't want to see you going in. You're going to have to hit some Qs, and hitting him into Mihail is not necessarily what you want.
It's just so much pressure on Aiming. He's the only carry. Like, if he gets caught, I don't even blame him. The team has just put him in such a rough spot at Nomshim.
Vital's flank angle.
Yeah, Vital's got a flank, Jiu's got a flank. They're closing in. They've got a concave, and they have pressure on this Baron.
Kingen has TP, but doesn't have ult.
Oh, trying to get it here on top of Jiu. He'll just dash away. This is going to be Baron over to Nomshim, as now we do have Vital coming in from behind, but he goes in alone. The rest of the team is just abandoning ship. They're just getting away. And it's another Baron given over to Nomshim.
Kingen's here.
Not quite able to lock them down. Mihail is, well, he's going to get redemptions, and the disengage cone comes in and denies us any action. So Nomshim, they get another Baron.
That was just so clean from Nongshim, though. The flank angle from Vital, they come over, punish Kingen there, and obviously we'll have to admit it, that was very risky and greedy and unnecessary for D+ to go into the dark jungle. They could have just walked around top lane and still come over to contest Baron. It's not like if you walk the other way, then Nongshim are just suddenly going to make Baron disappear before you can get there. I think the idea there is this all starts off with Moham just backing here greedily in this jungle without any vision in his own jungle, so very greedy, very risky, is punished. And obviously, like I said, it's a pretty good chance they're all very nearby because you're not seeing them inside. Then the walking back through here, I mean, Fisher was nearby, and perhaps they thought like maybe Vital flashes catches them, Fisher's damage is too much, so give him a little bit of a defense there, but probably shouldn't have done that. And then look at this angle for Vital. He just sacrifices himself to make sure that nobody can get onto this Baron. They secure it, they get out, they lose only one member, and now they are sieging D+. It was, at first it was like, okay, well, lost a bit of the advantage. Advantage got smaller. Oh, small advantage Nongshim, but the D+ are still the better team, right? Now I'm like, is Nongshim the better team? Now Nongshim has a 3,500 gold lead, and maybe we should just, I don't know, Nongshim should get a honorary playoff spot or something if they could just beat all of our West Side team for the rest of their matches.
Just have like a wild card match between 6th and 7th, but 7th is Nongshim now. Like, I don't know. Like, they're playing really well, and I feel like a lot of them, our upper teams are either preparing for playoffs or really still trying to figure out what's going on, or having other issues in the case of T1. And I mean, now we're just going to get another pick here on Elucid. It's just free. And
literally free.
It's just free. A couple of ults, I guess. And we got some excited fans here.
And they should be. Nongshim is playing well. They get an upset win, and then I get 2 back-to-back upset wins, 2-0. It's not over, but I mean, they have full map control right now. The Cassante's inside has a teleport as well, so he can actually push down that inhibitor turret with the rest of this Baron. This inner is gone.
And Jiu he's really feeling himself. He's dodging literally every single Mystic shot. He's in range. He's doing more poke even than aiming at this point, and they have 2 Fed carries, which DK do not.
I mean, this is the Nongshim that the Nongshim fans have been waiting for. this is this potential of this roster fully realized. And maybe their identity just becomes the punish team, right? The last check before playoffs.
Yeah. They used to be bro. Maybe it is also bro.
It could just be both of them.
Yeah.
DRX is like, can I get all the action? We'll see.
We'll see,
how
DRX.
the matches go next week, because there's some playoff teams trying to beat you to make playoffs. As we're just on a ward here, trying to get blue buff.
Yeah, max range, but Sejuani Kaisa from ahead can punish you from screens away.
Aiming was like, I need that gold no matter what. And Lucid dies.
I'm the carry. Look at me now. I'm the carry.
He's still 4-0 on this Ezreal, but like you said, hasn't been able to land all of his Mystic shots. Some really good movement from Jiwoo. Sylvie is just so tanky. He has Warmog, so if he takes some poke, he just walks it off.
Yeah. I just feel like at the end of the day, there's only so much that one man can do.
Yeah, and when you don't have the ability to walk towards objectives, you don't have the Ivern setup, you don't really have a jungler, basically, in this case, it's hard for you to actually step forward and do what you need to do as Ezreal. You can see the item value here, even with Jiwoo's.
Where's the Moonstone, by the way? It's, like, still not done.
Yeah, he's...
I hope that Mikhails is getting value. He wasn't able to utilize it to get himself out of the Sejuani ult the last time.
I think the Mikhails is not warranted, I'll be honest with you, Valdez. It's good for Kingen, I think.
It's good for Showmaker. Like,
but he can buffer a lot of the CC.
Yeah, you can see angles, but it... Yeah. We see the two-item spike with Ivern for a reason. Right?
It's definitely the Moonstone value when you have a Tristana, and Ezreal is part of why you pick this champion in the first place. Yeah. You have the shields already. You went Dawn Core, which is...
I feel like that's a good fourth or third item for Ivern.
Yeah, I feel like Dawn Core is one of those items where it's a luxury when you're ahead, but it feels like it's kind of weighting you down in this game when you're behind. You don't have control. I am concerned, and now we're stacking Infernal Dragons as Nongshim, so additional stats for the Corki, additional stats for the Kaisa, more poke for the Kaisa. As now, you know, when you look at yes, ability haste is useful on Ezreal, attack speed kind of, for the Hex Tech, but now Nongshim have more effective dragons than D+ have, even though they have 3. So everything is just going Nongshim-sided in this one. I mean, even the dragon is Nongshim-colored.
Yeah, D+ Kia missed out on also making their color red.
Bit of a whoopsie in this one, I guess.
We do have a decent amount of red teams, what with T1, KT,
Guangdong,
Freaks, and Nongshim. Don't think I'm forgetting anyone there.
B&K's alternate jersey.
Yeah, true. And here we go again. Here's the engage. It's on to Moham, but the damage that they have is just insane. And Moham has to flash away. Sylvie just a bit tankier at this point in time, although the damage is traded back.
I mean, he has Warmogs, though, so as long as he can just stay out of combat for a minute here, it's all going to get healed up.
There it
goes. You can see, he doesn't get hit by the True Shot. Aiming is trying to stop his Warmog's heal, and he's going to lose half his health bar.
Yeah, the True Shot Barrage, I think it hit Mile. He's still got full health.
Vital on the flank, too. He's just constantly threatening. They see him, but it doesn't mean that they can't, I mean, they can't walk up still. They know he's there, so they can't actually
Look at the damage. Look at the damage on the Baron. They don't have any vision. They don't have any way in, and now Vital is just going to kind of send an engage. It's not a good one. He will go down. It's 5v4. In goes the Aurora, but immediately just gets ripped to shreds, but Mahal very low. In goes Siwoo, assassinates him, but now is in a rough spot. Might have to go down here, as it is 4v1, just throws a Q in, and now DK are on the push.
It might be a game 3, Valdez. I think this was a huge error of judgment from Nongshim. They did the same play on the Baron last time, except they sacrificed Vital and walked away. This time they were like, okay, we go in on this engage, and it was not the right call. Kingen gets huge value, and D+ are looking to end.
I don't think it's over. They have Baron. They have a lot of wave clear with the Corki. They're trying to, at least Fisher's trying to trade. That's not what you want to do, as he will be pushed all the way back to his inhibitor, or rather his fountain. But yeah, with the Baron buff, I think Nongshim can hold on, and the game is not yet over.
It's not yet over, but this is finally D+ getting back a ton of cover. Like, look at this, same, almost 1-for-1, exact same setup they had the last Baron, but this time Vital, instead of just saying, I die, we walk away with Baron, we have map control, they try to fight with it. They think, okay, we have such a lead, this is over. Not respecting Kingen's ultimate. Jiwoo chases him down and kills him, but now has nothing he can use, no utility here for the escape. Fisher is like, well, if I go in with you, we 100% lose this game. They almost do lose the game off of the play. Some bruised Nexus turrets and an inhibitor down here. That's a ton of extra prio leading into this Infernal Soul. that D+ are looking to pick up. So while Nongshim still have Baron, and while the Nexus doesn't fall, I feel like this might be what wins the game for D+, because now the game is so much harder to play out. They had so much control before that Ju could poke, aiming's outranged, they're getting these picks onto Lucid because they're in the enemy jungle, they have full map control. Baron will give them a little bit back here in the next 70 seconds, but it is going to be really tricky to actually hold on to this. You can see his minions aren't even empowered here for aiming to take out. It's just too risky for Fisher to be nearby. Kingen, maybe it's kill top.
Kill the
No.
side laner. No, they're just gonna back away.
Yeah.
I still feel like with Nongshim's Baron buff, they can push out the mid inhibitor super minions, which in general is easiest to push out, and it can help them get mid prio and try to fight for this dragon. They're still ahead on gold. They still have a couple of fed carries. Showmaker does have a decent amount of farm, even though he didn't get any kills in this game. The one thing that concerns me for Nongshim is really aiming, because, I mean, he's full build now, and this is aiming on Ezreal. So as long as he doesn't make any crazy arcane shifts forward, it could just be the aiming show once again. We've seen this many times. And Nongshim will have to get more clean engages, not like the last fight.
Yeah, Vital is not able to get that flank angle. Again, with map control, he can set up those cool flanks for them to start Baron. He's going to maybe try to look for this wraparound here on this Infernal Dragon, but I think it's just too risky. He has no vision there on the left side of the pit. They're just going to use Mihail as a wall.
Yeah, I mean, he's tanky, but at the end of the day, we're in the late game with double AD carry comps. Will DK get in is the question as it goes to Ezreal! Aiming, he steals the Infernal Soul for DK!
And that's a ton of extra damage for this composition, and they're just going to say, you're backing, we're going to go ahead and push top. They're going to go look for that maybe second inhibitor turret here. Everyone's grouped up. Everyone will get those backs away. I thought they were just going to hard run it towards the top lane, but they have no wave. I think D+ will be happy with the Infernal Soul, and I guess the red buff that they steal away, the global there. But ultimately, that was a disaster that's stolen away, because Nongshim had so much control, they would have had Soul Point themselves after that, and we'll have to watch the replay.
I don't think Sylvie even smited.
Yeah, that's what I want to see.
I mean, it's Ivern. Like, Lucid would have to commit very heavily to try to steal that one away. I don't know how aiming managed that.
Yeah, we do have a confirmation from observing team that he did not smite, so that's kind of unacceptable, unfortunately. And Sylvie was having such a good game, to be honest.
Yeah. His ults, I mean, were game-changing, right? And unfortunately, just a bit of a whoopsie there. And
with Infernal Soul, I just don't see Nongshim winning this game. I mean, the Rel engages and Rel's positioning from Vital to stop them from doing Baron were really cool, but they were premedicated on having map control. They don't have that anymore, as we watch this from aiming's perspective. Oh, it's the empowered W, but it was, I mean, it was so easily smiteable. He had the W on it, and then you just press D.
So it hit 1180. No smite came through, and then it hit 594. You saw very, like, split second, and the Q just takes it away from aiming, obviously. And Sylvie just, he didn't see the angle. He didn't get the smite.
Yeah, that's rough. Because with this Infernal Soul, every Ezreal Q hits so much harder. And the poke is so much...
Barrage.
and True Shot Barrage, and auto attacks from Tristana, etc. But, you know, without map control to get this Rel in position to catch this comp that's already so hard to lock down, because you have the defensive King and ultimate, you have brushes from Lucid, you have shields, and then you have Showmaker who can buffer a lot of stuff. Aiming has his True Shot, or rather his Arcane Shift. Boham is also another front line that they have that can deny your entry. It's really hard for Rel to do anything from behind here, and the fact that they were ahead gave Vital so much agency. He used it super well. But man, Nongshim are really going to be kicking themselves for that failed Baron engage and the second Baron there, and then unable to get the smite. It's just these small
By the way, we did get confirmation, as it looks like, well, this is Cassante. So Mihail should be fine, just going to dodge some Qs. It was actually the Ju procced passive that chunked it from 1180 to 594, which got it in range for the Q. And it all happened so fast that, you know, Boham, though, he's in a lot of trouble again. He has to flash. This ult's not going to be great, as Boham is very low, but now we got Mihail in the ult here, and Kingen has to flash away. Ju is on the hunt. He's going to take him down, but again, in a rough spot is now Vital, just being kited out. A lot of damage coming in from Fisher, but look at aiming on the top side of the fight. He will be the one who carries alongside of Lucid and Showmaker. As Mihail goes in, he will take a Moham, and actually does take this wave with him. As Kazante is crazy, but not as crazy as Ezreal in the late game, and that might be the final nail in the coffin.
Looks like it. Sylvie gonna try to clear this wave, tossing in his smite, but he knows this one is definitely out of his hands. Speaking of hands, Mihail putting his hands on his head after trying to clear the wave. He wants to come in here and get these low health minions.
I mean, they know he's here, but it's the only choice for Sylvie. He does get the smite, but there's one left, and that will do it for this game. They can just tank it up with Iron Shields. They have Tristana and Ezreal. You've got W's, you've got explosions, and down will go the Nexus. D plus Kia force a game number 3.
Very close call, let's say, on this one, Valdez. You lose game 1, game 2, got caught multiple times in sides, disrespectful map movements from both Lucid and Showmaker. Kingen punished multiple times. Nongshim's punish game is real. They got T1 2-0, almost got D plus 2-0, but this one is going to go to a third and final. Really nice attempt there, that final engage actually in the last team fight to maybe get that miracle win. Kingen's ultimate was low value, but they were just too far behind at that point with the Infernal Soul. Ezreal can do so much. Aiming having a fantastic game, I think, with his back against the wall for a lot of it because they didn't have control, he didn't have a lot of agency, but look at that damage. This is, by the way, with the Ezreal nerf to AD. I think he's probably going to pick up POG for this one. It was a rocky game, it was a shaky game, you can see that in the gold graph. But D+ right the ship in the end.
Yeah, they have a extremely close game against Nongshim Red Force, so credit to Nongshim for really pushing DK to the edge here. But we will have a game number 3, guys. We're going to take a break and have the space. Let the show begin for game 3 after this break, and we'll see you then.
먹어야 돼?
아 끝났다 다행이다.
야 이거 웨이브
다행이다.
먹어야 돼 웨이브.
아 이거 무조건 끝났어.
내가 몸 앞으로 가서 막을게.
야 이거 일로 돌아서 오는 거 생각?
야 이거 웨이브.
야 이거
야
한 마리
하나
잡아야 돼 잡아야 돼.
한 마리
야
있다.
잡아야 돼 제발 한 마리.
내가 못 될게. 내가 못 될게. 자이몸 나눠 대자. 위에 거 나눠 대줘. 위에 거.
야너 몸대고 죽어.
오케이. 깼네.
어우
나이스.
아 나이스.
아 힘들다.
And, you know, keep your heads on straight here because getting upset by Nongshim could definitely do a number on your mental. We'll see what it does to T1 when they face Bro later on tonight. For now, let's take a look at these bans. I imagine we'll see some very similar bans here. The LeBlanc, the Lilia, the Vi. Probably going to go in this spot right here.
Yeah, that's what you would expect. I really like the Maokai ban from DK. I don't think they should change that. I think if there is a ban they want to change, it should be the Yone. But that is my personal opinion. Let's see what D plus Kia want to go with here.
Fisher had a fantastic Yone game against T1. I think that's a little bit weighing on their minds. Plus, the pick is quite strong right now. So I guess that is the thought process. But I do agree that
just if they want to ban something else,
Sure.
if they're like, okay, well, we really don't want to deal with X, you know, champion, but it seems like that champ is still Yone for them.
And I do think Showmaker he could have played Lucian if he wanted to have a more dominant laning phase. Obviously, he had a tough time into Fisher on the Tristana. in Game 2, so we'll see if that's a change-up they want to make if these bans are the same, which so far that is the case. See if this last ban remains the same as well. The Rumble coming through on R3 for Nongshim in Game 2.
I think especially if you want to go for an Ivern comp, still just banning away the Maokai feels
Just
good.
smart to ban it. It's so good in so many different types of comps that the D+ run. Ban the Corki, however.
Okay.
I mean, maybe they're going to look for a first pick Maokai themselves if this is going to be the Rumble ban again. So that could be a nice adjustment here. And then Showmaker could play something like an Azir if he wants to. He could change it up completely. Could still go for a Tristana pick if that is left open. I still like the Rumble ban here. Even though they won Game 1, pick is just so strong right now. So is it Maokai or is it something else? Sejuani could be a consideration, as we saw Sylvie had a pretty good game for most of that game on it.
I mean, they picked Aurora in this spot last time, but that's obviously with Maokai down. So with Maokai up, and based on Kingan's performance on the Aurora, I think this is a safe bet. Even though Lucid is not the greatest Maokai of all time, I think that the pick itself is just too strong.
Yeah, I feel like it's hard to be bad at Maokai.
That's true.
And I feel like Lucid gets way too much flack for his Maokai performance. I think people.
It was like a couple of games where he was trying to engage.
Yeah.
It was a comp issue as well. Uh-oh.
It's early in his career as we got the Senna coming through with the Sejuani this time. So what is coming through here for Showmaker? That's the big question on my mind right now. As you could just go Tristana, Aurora, and you have a good setup for the Aurora with this Maokai, but range can be an issue later on with this Senna. And D+ haven't been able to snowball these games very well, despite having early kill leads. Looking for the aiming Ezreal once again. This was mentioned in best of fives. You maybe just target this when we get to playoffs, and the aiming won't be able to carry like he did in Game 2 and nearly did in Game 1. So maybe just grab the Leona again here, but I'd rather see a prio pick instead. I mean, this is going to be the Aurora that they hover for now. I think Aurora plus Maokai is so incredibly strong. You lock them in place, the Aurora closes the gap, presses R, and the fight is nearly won off of that exchange alone. Plus, you can protect the Aurora with that Maokai ultimate as well.
Kind of got a half-hearted clap from the crowd when he locked that in. I think that everybody could feel that Kingan isn't the most comfortable Aurora player just yet, as everybody's still getting used to it. There's the Neela. Not too surprising. This is how Nongshim did win game number 1 with this exact bottom lane duo.
Love the Karma ban to make sure this lane doesn't get pushed in by the Ezreal. That's one way you could just lose all of your advantages in this lane instantly. It's still going to be tough, and we might see a Leona ban to follow. Not necessarily as strong into this as it was, or as strong of a support as it was in Game 2 with the Neela lane. And you do often get chunked out by the Senna, as we saw in Game 1. Poppy's taken away. I like that ban a lot. Again, just preventing Lucid from punishing the bottom side. But this time he has the Maokai, and the Poppy here kind of signaling maybe it's just going to be Cassante that's already banned away. I'm not sure about this Poppy ban, actually. Like, it threw me for a loop. I kind of forgot the Maokai was already locked. I'm like, I mean, it's strong into Neela engage. Maybe they're thinking it's Poppy support.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that before. I think it was Ondil who played it a couple of times. But yeah, definitely kind of a bit out of left field, but that definitely seems to be the angle they were taking. The Gnar into Aurora can sometimes be difficult in the lane, but if you get out of it, Gnar, as we know, a very common pick here in the LCK.
Yeah. Still keeping that mid pick up in the air. The Zeri ban denying that from being a secondary AD carry threat, but Tristana is still available. And we don't know what Showmaker is playing just yet. Could be playing the Aurora, but that is unlikely, as he is going to block the Tristana here. So we might just end up with Lucian mid with a full AD composition. Feels kind of tricky to play out, but there's no true tank in this draft. Obviously, the Maokai will be quite tanky, and the Rel is relatively tanky as well, but Akali.
Yeah, no. Fisher's like nodding. He's like, yeah, absolutely. I'm like, nah, no. Okay, this.
I don't really like the Azir either, to be honest. I think it's very it's very much dependent on a lot of different things going well in terms of engage. Yasuo I like more.
Yasuo. Azir.
Oh.
Azir.
No, I think the Azir is not a bad pick in isolation. It does fix your damage profile a little bit here, as you would have otherwise been full AD. But the Ezreal's can outrange it. The Tristana can play very well around it with her rocket jump. It's very difficult to punish her in the laning phase. And you're sometimes just shut out by the Maokai. You can't dash away. You can't actually set up the ult. So it feels like a very low value Azir pick compared to other angles where we've seen it. And Fisher's not known for his Azir here in the LCK, so that's a bit of a question mark for me. Whereas the composition of D+ is insanely robust. You have ways to lock people down, to put them into Kingan's cage, drop that circle on the ground, burn them down. You have an insane split push win con with the Tristana, which I'm really tired of talking about it, but it's a big problem that they're going to have to try to solve. And I feel like this will not work twice for Nongshim unless D+ make big mistakes. Now, we've seen a lot of mistakes from D+ in those first 2 games, so anything is possible. This is one of those series you and I were talking about off camera. It's a little bit tough to analyze because things are not going as you'd expect.
Yeah, sometimes gets a little bit funky towards the end of the regular season when teams are prepping either for playoffs or they have a lot of pressure off their shoulders and teams are trying things and we see new picks coming out and stuff like that. So for this, though, on the side of D+ Kia seems very standard, very, what you would expect. This is here. We'll see if it works out for them. But that bottom lane, once again, we're happy about that for the side of Nongshim. Let's see how it goes as we hop into the Rift for Game 3. Alrighty, game number 3. A game number 3 that I feel like we are gifted. Did not quite expect to have a game 3 in this one. I thought DK would just come in and, Nongshim's win over T1, a bit of a fluke, you could say, and DK looking strong in their last series against BNK. But that is not what happened, Wolf.
No. That's not what happened in the T1 series earlier this week, where I thought it was just going to be T1 bouncing back from a tough loss to Gen G, get their confidence back, head into the rest of their week schedule. Because now for T1, we'll talk about this later, but they have a pretty tough schedule. If they lose to Bro, they might not make playoffs. I don't expect they're going to lose to Bro, but you never know. Matches like this have a lot less implication, again, because like I said, for D+, if you get 3rd place, you get the weakest seed, but we don't even have any idea who that is right now. No one has any idea, so it doesn't necessarily matter at this moment in time. So it's just really about solidifying Moham, getting him some additional experience here on stage. And I think actually losing games like this is quite important for a player like Moham. He's done his fair share of losing, unfortunately, on Kwangdong, but now he's on a stronger team, had that big win over BNK. He's going to engage here at level 1.
Yeah. I think that's fine. I mean, early on, aiming as long as he stays healthy, the Ezreal, even with the nerfs, just still feels like a really strong pick. Even in the lane, stuff that used to counter it back in the day, not necessarily doing the same, although they have taken a lot of damage and they're too close to the wave at level 2. So, bit of a mistake in terms of their laning. It was going all right until this happened, and immediately Ju and Vital will punish it.
Yeah, I feel like there's been a big lack of respect from Moham into these Neela lanes because she gets more experience. Like, we talked about it a lot. We talked about how Senna just sat in the lane, or Ox really spent a lot of time talking about it in the space after game 1. Senna usually falls behind in XP, but with the Neela, you have that extra XP, and he just isn't roaming. Like, he's just stacking, and this ends up being, once again, a big win here in the bottom lane. And, the Maokai not pathing bottom side here, so they're free to continue to put the pressure on. Yeah, I mean, Moham, when you lose on Kwangdong Freaks when you're a sub, and you're a team that's the underdog and not expected to win, and it's a CV Max revolving door of supports, you shrug it off and you go, well, it happens. Like, this is where I am right now in my career. But when you're a dominant support for D+, you come in here and you're replacing Kellen. There's a lot of trust being placed in you. There's clearly been a lot of discussions and plans about, hey, you're the new guy. This is probably what our playoffs roster is going to look like. And then you drop a game to Nongshim. I think that's a good experience to have, to keep your mental straight, try to figure out what comes next.
Yeah.
When we were moving into best of 5s in a few weeks' time. So Just wanted to mention that, as unfortunately didn't respect the Nila lane, as didn't expect this stat either. It's surprising to see a 6-loss streak for Sejuani.
I feel like the biggest reason we see that is because it's almost always in the Maokai. And the timing of this is actually impeccable because Maokai is on a win streak, and I feel like Maokai is the stronger of the two tank jungles that we see most often. And this is the handshake that happens very often. One team gets Maokai, the other picks Sejuani, and the teams that pick Sejuani generally are not winning.
It's true. I think that's a really good point. I think that's likely the case. I'd love to see the stat of the two against each other put up there to further the point, but either way, see this mid lane is not going very well for the Azir. Another small issue that I was kind of bringing up when I was saying I didn't really like this pick that much. I know a lot of people are old school and will say, if you have a full AD comp, it just can't work in League of Legends. You gotta have an AP champion, whether it's in the top lane or the mid lane, or you gotta at least have an AP jungler. They have the Sejuani, right, the Nara tops. They have an AD bottom lane. I kind of feel like damage profile is almost a myth in this meta, though, because if you get the AD carry enough crit, it doesn't matter how much armor the enemy has. And it's a Maokai and a Rel. I think that there's not a ton of great matchups left available that he could have played into Tristana. Obviously, the Akali would not have been it for me either. But I think that the Azir here was just kind of a, well, that's what's left, and it's AP, and it's meta. But in this draft, we'll see what he can get done. Obviously, a rough start.
Yeah. Like you're saying, I mean, a lot of their success as well from game one came from the fact that it went very late and they had 380 carries. It wasn't just that Senna was really farmed. It was also that Fisher, although he had a very weak early and mid game, he eventually was Zeri in the late game. And he had enough items. He had 4 items by the end, and regardless of what happened in the rest of the game, he was still able to scale up. Whereas I guess you could say that a bit about Azir, but as you mentioned, that's not really the meta nowadays. Azir gets outshone by 80 carries. That's just kind of the way it is. And, I mean, maybe you like Azir because if everybody's in the Aurora ults, maybe you get some big sweeps as well, but I feel like that's kind of grasping at straws. Yeah, I think I'm kind of with you on this one. I think you just picked it because, well, it's Azir, and it's safe, and it's AP.
He's 1-3 on the pick. This is his 5th game of it. He has played 11 games of Corki, including this series. It's been his most picked champion. I do think the Corki ban was really smart from D+ to get the Maokai first pick there, or they get Rumble. And, you know, that adjustment in draft is pretty huge here. In the outset of this game, it's still early days. We do see Nongshim with the bottom side control of the lane. We'll be able to get this dragon. It's traded, of course, for all 3 grubs top side, with the Aurora controlling the top lane. And this happened last time we had Aurora in Dinar. We didn't really watch it, but if you're paying attention to the numbers, you can kind of see that the matchup is, I don't want to say unplayable, but it feels really frustrating. And No Magic Mantle is nerfed as well on this patch, so see what happens here in this trade.
Showmaker's just going in, and he will get swept away. Here comes Sylvie. He's going to flash now just to get over the wall. Very awkward trade there for Showmaker, as Fisher was clearly baiting him into that one. And they will enjoy the Tristana flash.
Yeah, that was the best way to handle a Emperor's Divide as Tristana is the rocket jump. So if you use it in his face, you're like, wait, she doesn't have that anymore. Yeah. Very bizarre, as Lucid is now in trouble with that extra prio they gain in mid. He's getting pushed off of his Raptors. One small mistake. I mean, you can see the dominoes fall a little bit here as Fisher is very low now after that Showmaker ult.
Trying to take away the Raptors as well. A bit of those go over to Lucid, but most of them will go over to Nongshim. And there's no dragon to fight over or anything like that at this point in time. They already got the dragon and did Nongshim, so.
Vital's like, thanks for stacks.
Yep.
He's picking up some more souls over here. Vital will need to leave now, though, as well. Yeah, a bit of a chain reaction there off of Showmaker's play. Ends up being a small win here for Nongshim.
Well, he's going to bully Mihail away from the plant. He says, that is my plant.
This is such a bizarre situation.
I will take it home now.
Vital is roaming a little bit here in this early game. We'll come over and try to make that play, grab some souls. Aiming is not actually pushing this wave, so...
Yeah, he's got it pushing into him. This is a great position for the Ezreal.
He's frozen it. It's pretty frustrating to deal with here. You can see Moham is in the river, coming over looking for a potential punish.
He only denied the one wave, Doesn't look like he wants to continue denying too much. I mean, he's still got 3, so it's kind of like a soft freeze, right?
Yeah.
But he had enough minions to freeze it for longer if he really wanted to.
I do feel like this is something we see very few bottom laners actually do when we have the roaming Senna, is to just try to deny that farming champion. That, you know, when the fasting Senna is there, like it's a Nautilus or an Ornn, try to deny farm from them. In this case, kind of stopping Jiwoo a little bit from getting some of that farm during that roam, during that play topside. So a good call from aiming. He doesn't lose anything from this. Very frustrating to deal with for the Nongshim bottom duo, but they are linked up now, and we'll try to get that push back.
Yeah. I guess the only potential thing you lose is like pressure on the plates, but it seems like he didn't think they were going to get plates anyway. And
Yeah,
that's totally fine. You're denying more gold than you're actually gaining from the plate.
Exactly. I think that's really the reason why he doesn't hard push for it. And considering it's aiming, the Gold King, I mean, he's using a lot of restraint.
Can we question him though, you know?
No, he's got the restraint required.
Yeah. He's not just about his number, he's more about the gap between the numbers. He likes when the production puts him at the top and the AD carry at the bottom of the other team. And Showmaker in a lot of pressure here, and that's just going to be first blood. Sylvie able to dive under the turret and take him down. Now Lucid is here. We got a roam coming in from King, Fisher pretty low. Not sure if he's going to be able to help without Divide as well. Sylvie does have his bottom lane coming on over, as this is going to get pretty risky, I would say, as the ult is going to come down here from King and holds them all in play as the True Shot Barrage does an insane amount of damage. And that is just going to be a double kill over to Lucid and a bonus kill for Kingin.
Yeah, this was a good idea in terms of catching Showmaker alone, but obviously staying around a little bit too long there. I mean, not much they could do. Fisher takes a ton of damage on the initial exchange, and it's a really good rotation over from Kingin. True Shot Barrage is massive. As look at this setup, like, he's able to identify they have no wards here. Fisher, I mean, Showmaker's surprised for sure by the Emperor's Divide engage. He's basically in point-blank range, though Sylvie hits the ult afterwards, but now he's stuck here. The ultimate came through from Vital to help secure this kill, so he doesn't have it to save Sylvie now. And aiming is like, I also have a global ultimate here, and with the lockdown of Kingin plus that True Shot Barrage, it is just easy pickings here, 4D plus. So looked like a great start. The first kill comes through, ends up being a disaster as 3 fall on the side of Nongshim, or 2 fall rather.
Oh,
nice.
Trade for 1 grub goes the way of Lucid. And they're looking for more. They have the Tristana, they have the Ezreal. Fantastic. Pushing 80 carries, especially the Tristana. So they get the 4. They're not going to overcommit for more, although they do have Lucid there still. And trying to get to work on those, but again, not overcommitting.
Certainly not.
So, you know, Veigar, a lot of casters will call his event horizon the baby cage.
Yes,
right?
Much to my chagrin.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of it either, but it happens, right? What about Aurora's ult?
Adult
What
cage,
kind of
like-
cages? See, adult cages is kind of, I don't really like that either. As now they're just trying to gank gaming, but Mohan was here, so now turning into a bit of a 2-on-2.
How about the champion cage?
Yeah, that sounds better.
Yeah.
Sounds better.
No one knows what her ult's called. I feel like literally not even one person's ever named it.
You know, Atlas is very good at naming all the abilities. I personally am not. And I saw it like 3 times. And it's been played so much. I was on the space. I was looking at the abilities. I'm like, okay, this is the name. And I've forgotten it. So.
Oh, they told us on the prompter.
Ah, yes.
Cheating. I don't
Between
wanna...
Worlds.
Yeah.
You didn't want to, but I just blurted it out.
So how about champion cage? I like that more.
Yeah.
Seems easier to remember.
Or just the cage.
Mihail is going to take a third of Showmaker's health bar, but unfortunately, well, is in a little bit of danger. Won't be able to do anything more off of that Gnar, but he clears the wave.
Look at the turret health is just like slowly being chipped away at. We got a TP coming in here.
Kill top side laner. Go.
Yeah, well, I mean, in the 1v1, feels pretty good for Fisher, as now, again, Flash available for Showmaker. Senna ult's coming in. There's the Flash, and he still gets taken out. And Fisher didn't even need Sylvie.
Nope. That was actually so clean, and the angle for Jiwoo's ult, predicting exactly where the jump would land, was so beautiful to watch.
Vital,
now he's
rather.
in trouble, though. Or
Vital,
yes.
yeah, the Senna player. Understandable confusion there.
They can't be supports playing Senna. That was never a thing while I was a caster.
Yeah. Times change. Well, now the cage is going to miss, and Fisher gets out, but this push from DK is very good. But how about the turn coming out from Nongshim? Jiu keeps them around. The TP comes in from a Heil. As everybody is so low, Jiu will dodge the True Shot barrage. Kingen makes his way over as well, but it's just a kill lockdown for Vital on the Senna.
Yeah, this is starting to get a little bit shaky here for D+. They had a pretty comfortable lead in this game, especially if you consider the CS difference in top, and they've now given 2 Dragons this Chemtech Soul, which is kind of helpful for Senna, but otherwise, you know, and kind of Neela as well with the tenacity, but going to lose this Dragon, or rather lose this turret, his first turret going over to D+, but some of these fights are starting to get a little bit shaky as Showmaker here just does not expect this Azir to show up. The ult comes out first, and then he, after the rocket jump, is able to easily get the divide, and that's that Vital ult I was talking about. Although I did incorrectly say Jiwoo. That was really well placed, and he ends up flashing to get the kill. Over here, we're really just trying to force plates, and there's a TP and a Neela. So just really good reaction here from the side of Nongshim to actually be able to punish this. Lucid goes back in as well to try to buy some space here. Will ultimately still go down. And they get the turret afterwards anyways, and the TP. So it's still relatively decent here for D+, but I think they wanted that to be a little bit cleaner. The TP for a TP, turret still goes down.
Yeah, at the end of the day, keeps Nongshim in a really good spot. They got those first 2 Drakes as well for just a bit of bonus, and maybe even just a very bonus Chemtech Soul. As you mentioned before, it's not the greatest, but it's not bad to get, obviously. And we'll see if we can see any big Mega Cone engages as well. I feel like you'll definitely see it out of a Gnar, out of a Sejuani, trapped in the cage here is Jiu, who's taking a ton of damage and has to cleanse, but it's Ezreal, and aiming just shuts that down. Jiu with no sums outside of the cleanse, it's not enough to get him away.
Yep, and that's a good pick. And weirdly enough, Aurora, because her ultimate range is just so big and you can't get out of it, she just is kind of a pick champ. Like, she does a ton of AoE damage and zoning in team fights and can win you a fight just by placement of her ultimate. We've seen so many times, though, if you're a little bit too far forward, she just presses R and then could easily follow up because there's no escape. As Kingen will play very respectfully here. Sylvie is in the area until Moham comes down. He was a little bit of threat.
Yeah, he doesn't want to play the game of kill side lane top laner over and over again, as we had in the first couple of games. Mom's here, so they just back away.
Clear the wave pretty quickly, and he didn't have ult, so slightly concerning after that pick in mid. So we are setting up for that 3rd Dragon. We'll watch this one more time. There is a trinket here. Jiu tries to run away, steps back for just a second, but I think either way he still gets hit by this. Just a great play from Kingen, Wing into range, closing the gap, aiming, cleaning up house here. There's no minions on the turret, but it doesn't matter. The damage has been done.
Aiming, simple cleanse, but it's still a tier 1 that's taken by Nongshim. Kind of, we didn't really see the setup for that, but it was only aiming under the turret, probably just trying to get the advantage after the backs came in from DK, and they absolutely will.
Yeah, D+ have a Rift Herald. That's a low-value dragon, but they certainly could just drop it here to get Prio to set up for a team fight. Kingen has his ultimate back online now, and he is in really good position. They might just not need it, to be honest, as they're not going to contest. Nongshim are not going to fight into this really nice setup with the Aurora ultimate between worlds for just a Chemtech Dragon and Chemtech Soul Point. They absolutely don't need that. Miao's just going to side lane, start to farm up a little bit. We'll get his first item off of this back. And the Azir is also going to be a very strong scaling champion. We talked about could have been double AD carry. He had a rough start to the laning phase, but has otherwise been kind of the main character, I feel like, of this game. Vital is having some great plays as well, but his side laning has been really impactful, and he is going to try to, with his Demolish, take this turret down. Vital's with him, so he could bait this.
Yeah. And, yeah, I mean, Moham standing up to Vital, who, those are both supports. Vital is 3 levels ahead. So somehow that happened as well. More roaming out of the Rel, I suppose, and Vital is obviously alongside the Neela, so it's just naturally, once again, just like game 1, going the way of Vital, and he's going to be a big force in this game. And
D+ looking for the punish here, and Vital and Jiu are a little bit cut off, so I think they just really need to give this, I mean, not give up the turret, but just let it go for now. They can get it later. It's basically like 2 autos away from death. D+ with a big rotation up. This means Mihail, who does have teleport, is going to actually be able to counter map, cross map, get the bottom turret here. So good macro here from Nongshim in this neutral game where not a whole lot is happening. They give up the objective, they give up the Chemtech Dragon, but they're going to get this turret here. They're actually going to get both ultimately. See how well they defend the Herald.
Yeah, they just feel like they can't really, especially with 2 of their guys out on the map, but it's 2 turrets for 1. Yes, DK did get the middle tier 1, which is more valuable. As that is, yep, he's invisible, and now he's not. Jude just going to flash to get away, and thankfully he has that flash this time. But now Meganar coming on in. King and no ult available. Mihail is very much alone, though, so not really able to keep anyone around and interested.
Yeah, there's not really much he can do. It was a nice idea there. Didn't teleport forward either, and it's kind of greedy to stay bottom and continue to push into that inner because it was at full health. They'll take the 2 turrets here for Jiwoo's flash basically in the mid turret. Mid turret's still relevant as we saw from Kingan's flank there. You know, if that mid turret's down, you can go pretty deep. If you have that additional map control and look for picks. It's just weird because we haven't really seen anyone play the Aurora as Kingan's playing it in this isolated game here where you're just constantly fishing for those angles. But with the map control they had, it is definitely a good idea. Senna is very immobile, does have the Edge of Night and the Cleanse. But, I mean, obviously team fights are where it's going to be at, but finding these other opportunities is really huge as well because the ultimate, even without Malignance, is on a relatively low cooldown. See, it's almost back up already.
Both of our top laners going for that Cosmic Drive second in all 3 Aurora games we have had, so it seems like that's just the build of choice today.
I mean, it's really strong, and the extra stats, the movement speed is really helpful for closing the gap to set up that ultimate. So, you know, more ultimates versus better ultimates, you know, I guess is the argument here.
Yeah. I mean, it feels just very much like an Aurora item, so we're not too peeved about that one.
Yeah, I think it's totally fine. We were critical of it a little bit in the first game, I think, but watching it in action now, a few more games, I'm starting to come off on my Malignance high horse a little bit, you know, Valdez. I'm feeling pretty okay with it.
Yeah. And we've kind of hit a lull state.
He's doing it again.
Kingan is waiting. He's got a Mega Cone right next to him. Doesn't even really want to use that. He's just trying to stealth on in and engage. And, I mean, it makes it very difficult for anyone on Nongshim to really just stand there. And that's going to give them a chance now with 6 Void Grubs to hit the inner of the mid lane, as now the Neil ultimate is going to lock Moham in place, but he is Rel. Will he be tanky enough? The answer is no, as now we still have the flash ult engaged from Sylvie, and now a massive divide comes in from Fisher, catches 2 of them, forces so many of these ultimates to come out, but now we got the huge cage coming on down. Mihail looking for the engage, and he gets it on the 3, but the damage not quite coming through just yet for Nongshim. Finally, they get 1 in the trade, but Aiming and Kingan still alive on the backside.
Yeah, that was a very, very close fight there. Ultimately, Nongshim ended up getting the better end of the kills, but the turret still goes down. I feel like if D+ didn't get the turret there, you'd feel really rough about how that one all turned out, but it's Aiming who actually helped secure it there. In the end, they get Moham. They end up living through Kingan's engage, but it was a very, very scary setup. As Moham really wants to set up for this Demolish into finishing off the turret, and then Jiwoo comes through and takes him, or locks him up. And then when Kingan shows up here, he's got the ability to then lock them down on the exchange, because it looks like initially, okay, he's going to die here. He W's out of the Emperor's Divide, and outside of Fisher's, Zhonya's there. Look at this cage. It's getting massive amounts of value. And then Mihail, yes, it's a ton of CC here, but the follow-up damage is light there, and Kingan and Aiming will still get out. So ends up being a 2-for-1 there, but they get the inner turret, so extremely valuable for D+. As a one-team fight now, it means that inhibitor is just up for the taking.
Yeah, and we're just going to TP into this Chemtech Drake fight. Feels like DK are very much saying, we want to take all these Chemtech Drakes down. We don't want to allow you to hit that soul mark, or the soul point mark in this case. Nongshim, looks like they do want to fight it. I mean, at this point, I feel like both teams wouldn't be too sad to go for a fight. Mihail is about to hit his Meganar.
Could be denied here. Huge play from Mihail, who now has his Narbar set, and Kingan's out of the fight for now.
Yeah, he could just, you know, zone Kingan away. They do not really have Kingan for now, but now the Maokai ultimate is going to be coming in. Sylvie does dodge it. He is on top of this. It is just a flip, and it goes to Lucid. As the smite not there for Sylvie once again. We get a big sweep on the disengage, but this true shot barrage into the Aurora ult is just disgusting. As now the damage is coming through. Fisher will fall, the Neela will fall, and DK are looking for more. Kingen with that mobility is going to find Vital, gives the kill over to Showmaker. That's 3 and the Drake to DK.
I mean, they kept Kingen out of the fight for so long, and by there I mean Mihail did, but it cost him a lot, and then when he shows up, you've got the Aurora ult, you've got the True Shot Barrage, and a big buster shot from Showmaker as well. Everything lining up. I thought the idea of pushing the Aurora out is a huge and smart one because the comp is so reliant on her lockdown and damage to set up those fights with Lucid's ultimate. But when she shows up, I mean, they kept her out for a while, but when she shows up, the fight is over. It's lights out, and Nongshim now significantly behind, but that's before this Baron goes over. We talked about the mid-inner already being down. There's some standing gold they can grab off of the top turret here when they get this Baron, but look at this, Kingen's out of the fight. It's a great steal, or secure, I should really say. I mean, it's basically a 50-50 here. Lucid zoning them away. Fisher is rooted. He takes his opportunity, wins the smite with the smash coming through, and now Kingen's here. And when he's here, he puts us down. True shot. Watch the buster shot as well. Bam. And then Showmaker's just like, all right, how many jumps we get?
My work here is done.
Jiwoo ends up ulting to keep him at bay for a moment, but it is just done. Vital, fortunately, no way out. Kingen, they kept him out for a little while, but it's hard to keep an Aurora down forever, and he's almost got death cap.
Yeah. I'm just glad that this very strong, almost overpowered champion is finally finding more success in the LCK, because this is what makes sense, I would say.
When you have a comp that makes sense for it, I feel like it looks really good. When you pick it for the tier list and then you don't build around it, it looks rough. I mean, not rough, but less good.
Yeah.
It still looks pretty good.
That's the thing. I mean, it's still a very good champ. Divaskia, very big Red Bull Baron power play at this point. Mihail is getting some bonus gold in the bottom lane, but it's still definitely advantage to Divaskia at this point.
They haven't been able to threaten this inhibitor turret directly just yet, and Jiwoo is going to be able to clear this wave, trying to put some pressure on the top lane. Got that top outer, so that's a large portion of that Baron power play right now. And it's significant advantages here for D+. You know, I mentioned it was, it's like almost 3,000 gold lead. Now we're looking at a nearly 4,000 gold lead for D+. But we've seen some big mistakes in fights. We've seen some shaky setups for D+, whether it's Lucid getting caught or Moham going in a little bit too deep, getting isolated or backing at a weird spot. Never want to say it's over till it's over. I haven't really been able to keep track of Jiwoo's, or rather Vital's stacks. Sorry, I mean, it's like,
yeah, no,
it's
it makes
supposed to be
sense.
played by a support player, and he's an X80 carry player. I don't know.
Yeah.
I did it with the Guma game as well. But anyway, I don't know how many stacks he has, but he's starting to become a late game threat, as was the case in game 1. It's just keeping this Aurora at bay is so tough, and he's about to have death cap. That's the biggest problem, and they don't have map control, obviously, because they're facing this Baron for 30 more seconds, as Mihail may get punished as well as this Gnar expires.
Yeah, the timing of this is really rough for Mihail, and Showmaker really does want to make the most of this, as he will be forced to flash away, but Showmaker has his own flash. Not going to force the issue, as he knows, you know, take the little bonus win. You don't have to go crazy and try to chase Mihail all over around the map. And they do get his flash. This push will end with this wait.
It's at 101 stacks, you can see there. So it has quite a lot, but not quite the massive amount he had in game 1, but there's still a lot of time for him to get them. And it's still a good amount of stacks, don't get me wrong. He has been stacking quite well.
103.
Yeah, there you go. So
Zoom in.
Baron, they weathered the storm on that. Yes, they lost a decent amount of gold, and you can see the gold advantage here for D+ is quite strong, but they kept their inhibitors alive. The Azir still scaling up a little bit. Gnar going to be relevant in team fights if he can set up his Gnar bar like we saw in that last big fight. I do think this is still winnable for the side of Nongshim, especially if D+ make a mistake, or if they can catch Kingen, because Kingen keeps going on these wild flanks, and that's great, especially when you have this mid turret down. He's able to find a lot of success with his ultimate. But if you get caught by a Sejuani ult while you're trying to set up for that flank, while you're trying to set up your ultimate, and you get blown up, and that's out of the fight, it gets a lot easier for Nongshim to utilize their competition.
Yeah. Fisher very much going for a tanky build. Went for Zhonya second, is going for the Abyssal Mask, I would assume, third. And Ooh, Vital's taking some big damage. I mean, at the end of the day, aiming is still on Ezreal, and he hasn't had this huge pop-off game that he had in Game 2, but he's still extremely bad with this BT.
He's just being consistent, and he's positioning well. He's level 16.
Yeah,
the BT is going to be empowered by these Chemtech Dragons, of which they will now have 3.
Yeah.
So even if he gets hit by a few Azir autos, some Sand Soldiers, he can just kind of walk it off and heal up real easily. So I feel like he is in a really good position to carry these team fights that Kingen sets up for him. And D+ are just not letting go of their map control. And Baron is over, but they're not. And they're pushing hard with this Tristana. Showmaker level 17. He has a ton of range as well set up, sitting on 3 items. They get some alone time with these turrets. It is going to be a huge problem for Nongshim, and they're just trapped in their base. It's practically a siege. Vital is just trying to pick up each and every soul he can find, stacking to 110 now. But they're going to need to win a team fight. You know, you could defend for a while, but eventually that Baron will respawn. 50 seconds to go. They are grouping towards that, clearing this mid wave, trying to set up some vision. There's only 1 control ward in the inventory of Fisher right now, so it's not like they can set up deep vision. They're too scared to come in here and check these brushes, so they're just going to hang around the Baron. Don't really get massive control. That's a good usage of the Mega Bloom to scry that ward away.
Yeah.
It is very oppressive when you have a lead with Chemtech Rift to take vision away, because D+ can just use that scryers and take all the wards away. Like all the hard work Nongshim were trying to set up here, it's just now gone.
And at the end of the day, if you're on the losing side, yes, you get vision from it, but you don't get to clear wards because you don't have position
Exactly.
on the objective. So you saw Sylvie hit a Mega Bloom, and he's like, well, yep, I can see them. I know where the ward is. That's good information, but the ward is still there. Meanwhile, they don't have too much. Although, I say that, and there are 2 wards now on the Baron, so Nongshim have taken some control back.
Mihail has his Narbar in a decent spot here, but I don't think he can win this all in.
Well, he might try for it.
No, he backed away. He has teleport, but not teleport advantage. I'd like this play more if he did have it. His Vital is going to go super low. We'll be able to heal up because he is Senna. But that's a pretty high-value True Shot Barrage that Aiming can now just queue his way back into from this mid-wave. He's going to get so much CDR. And Baron Prio still in D+'s control. I feel like they're being a little bit timid with this lead, and I don't blame them, considering how this series has gone so far. Gnome should have been so tenacious in these team fights, especially in the late game. Now the Narbar is gone, so they could just kind of sit this one out.
Yeah, I do feel like some of the feedback for DK would have been, okay, well, if you're going to go for it, make sure you're 100% certain. So they haven't found any, 90, 95% chance opportunities. Speaking of which, Moham, once again, trying to frontline. He's going to get poked down from Fisher, who is very strong.
Abyssal Mask online for him, and he has the Oblivion Orb. And the D+ are like, okay, no Narbar, no vision. We're going for this. The Senna ult will reveal the timing. This is a good angle for Nongshim.
Yeah,
the Maokai ult.
The Maokai ultimate just denies Sylvie, throws in an ult, but the damage is not there. He gets knocked away by Showmaker as well, and now everybody is in the Aurora ult. It is just a crazy team fight. Nilo will go down. Some big ultimates coming in from the Gnar and the Azir. Fisher's still alive, but he eventually does fall, and that is one of the big pillars of Nongshim right now. DK, they take down the Baron. They take a nice turn fight afterwards. And Vital's just hitting the minions, trying to stop this game from ending.
Yeah, just going to try to clear this wave. I feel like if the game state was much closer, that actually could have been a winnable fight for Nongshim. The Buster Shot is fantastic. Guarantees there's nothing Sylvie could do. Maokai ult into Buster Shot means no steal, guaranteed Baron. And yes, great Gnar coming through from Mihail. Fisher's ult was awesome as well, but G was taken out of the fight early, and Vital can only do so much. And I think D+ still likely end off of this top wave. No way to defend without Fisher. 20 seconds on the Azir.
Yeah, they just don't really have wave clear with these two specifically, especially against the Baron. And that should be enough to get the job done as the Nexus is open. Miles going in. He's got a Mega Gnar. He only hits aiming, and he's just being chunked by that very man himself. As Sylvie also going to be locked in. Fisher trying his best. They are desperate, but it is not going to happen. D+ Kia, they do get across the line and take the series 2-1. After losing that first game, they pull it back
Game 2 definitely looked like a winnable one for Nongshim as well, but Game 3 I feel was the most one-sided D+ controlled game we saw of the three, and Kingen controlled those team fights, got the picks in mid, and even though they try to keep him down, keep him out of the pit, keep him out of those fights, eventually the Aurora will prevail. And once they lost map control, it became so much tougher to play out this composition. The early mid-turret take from D+ really ended up being quite valuable for them. Some good macro, though, from Nongshim. You know, trading some dragons they didn't care about for top and bot turrets as Kingen looks relieved.
Yeah.
I think that Nongshim definitely should be proud of how they played today, and coming off of that win over T1 just a few days ago, too. I think you're going to have a good, happy end of the season regardless. For D+ fans, I think on one hand, you're a little bit concerned about some of the drafting we saw and some of the ways in which D+ won and some of the ways in which they nearly lost. But it's just at the end of the day, a regular season game that doesn't matter as much as Aiming. Yeah, I like this pose because he did a lot of heavy lifting in this series.
He definitely did. I mean, yes, Ezreal was nerfed, but Aiming is still aiming on Ezreal, and I think you have to respect that. It's still very strong, and we see what the True Shot Barrage can still do despite the nerfs to the Q. I still think that Ezreal is in a really good spot. Looks like Showmaker's not too happy. I feel like his game 1 and 2 weren't the greatest, for sure, and I mean, that's fair, but you know, it's one of the days. I'm sure he'll get over it.
Game 3 also kind of getting punished by Fisher in sides and stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Not that it was his fault, it was just really clutch and unusual decision-making from Fisher as well. Like, just saying, no, I'm going to go in point-blank range and ult you here when Showmaker didn't have vision of whether jungler was there or not. Just some really smart decision-making, like this play here from Fisher. It's the way in which he did this, has the ult from the Senna as well. Yeah. Just very clean. Like, moments like this, you're frustrated as Showmaker because you think you know you're fine. You think you know you're safe. Just gets outplayed. Kingen, though, stole the show for me. And I think a lot of it was Aurora, but I think a lot of it was Kingen as well. I voted for him in this one. The team fights are all about him. Even the delayed ultimates that we saw in some of these, like this one,
yeah,
they're so impactful.
Good buster shot from, you know, support or stuff. No, I mean, yeah, it was good buster shots from Showmaker.
I mean, bustering them into the wall is...
This one, too, you know, pushes him back.
Yeah, no, he denies the smite. Look, Showmaker should not be disappointed with his performance. I think he's disappointed with the fact that he wasn't the main character, and I think that's kind of a Showmaker-ism, right? A lot of the time over these last few matches, they've gotten the wins, but he hasn't been the guy.
Unfortunately for him, the guy on the squad right now is aiming. So... And Lucid kind of enables everybody. Sometimes it's Showmaker, but most of the time it is the Ezreal player.
It is good to see, though, when they're giving the resources to Aiming. He's getting the Ws. He's being a little bit more consistent in the mid to late game.
And not the E's.
Yes, not the E's.
The W's, yes.
Yes. The W into the Q, W into Q, 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 Q,
and
right click.
Yeah, at the right time.
But
it slows is Lucid.
Yeah. Calling out the focus Gnar.
Go for the fight. Take it slow. We definitely win.
Yeah. There's a call from Lucid, I believe, to say like we definitely win there. Calm, collected, Aiming tops damage.
Yeah, and then unfortunately, once again, the Jiu damage is, you know, the Neela damage. It's just, it's not really a champ that does a lot of damage unless you're really far ahead, right? So. It empowers the Senna. He does get some engages, but unfortunately we haven't really seen him pop off in a big fight or anything.
It's ironic that, you know, I was saying Jiwoo for the Senna because the AD carry, but Vital is the true AD carry. The Senna is the support engaged champion.
Yeah.
And she supportively gives experience.
Yeah.
The Neela, yeah. That gives experience to the Senna. The Neela ends up being, you know, I feel like a smart pick in this draft. Gave him a lot of bot side prio, but didn't work out as well as they would hoped. I still think it was a solid draft. I thought it was a great game plan coming into this one for Nongshim. I think they should be pretty happy with the result overall.
Yeah, at the end of the day, Nongshim did get a win against D+ Kia. They stopped that loss streak after 20 losses in a row in games. So they got that done, but DK take the win anyway. We are done here for the first series. Let's hand it over to the space to break down this one.
Thank you very much, guys. This is Jisun for the POG interview translation, joined by Amy and Kingen on the side of D+ Kia. With this win, they secured the 11th win of the season by defeating Nongshim Red Force. Let's interview the unanimous POG winners, Amy and Kingen. Congratulations. Another 3-game series and a win in the end. How do you feel, Amy? We always go to the third game, so it's pretty exhausting, but still winning in the end feels great. What about you, Kingen? Yeah. Every time in the fan meet, I tell my fans, next time it's gonna be a 2-0. You'll get home early, but I couldn't live up to my words. But I'm a little relieved, but I don't want to say I'm relieved. I want to say I'm heartbroken because I could not keep my promise to my fans. Aiming, Nongshim pulled off an upset in their previous match, so they must have been a very intimidating opponent. Today's 3 games are very challenging. What was the most difficult aspect of facing Nongshim? So Nila Sena, very unusual comp. Also Maokai, which is really valuable in the later game, and also the presence of Maokai in teamfights are really big as well, so it was hard to deal with. Yeah, exactly. So we had Nila Sena combination in the bottom lane, with Jiu's well-known Nila pick and a support Sena played by a previous bot laner. How was it to play against them? I personally don't think Nila is a good pick, but it was pretty scary though. But Nila itself is not an easy champion to, put a lot of damage in team fights, so it was pretty doable in the end. Even during the difficult second game, you made a critical steal onto the Dragon's Soul, so let's take a look at this play. So the empowered Q with the buff from W managed to get a steal on that dragon. How did you see that angle? So Ezreal, his damage is incredible in the later game. So I already landed my W. So I was looking for the Q angle for the steal. I was kind of expecting it because I'm pretty good at stealing objectives. I saw it coming a little bit. So Sylvie could not even use his smite. I mean, if he smote that Drake, it could have been lucky, secure for them, but this time I got the lucky steal. Well, in that game, actually, Nongshim already got 3 Barons, so the game was pretty much in the hands of Nongshim Red Force, and in this kind of situation, DK has to rely on your late game potential. We had Ivern, Tristana, Ezreal, so the late game value was so huge. So I was pretty confident in the late game team fights, so I was feeling pretty okay. And as a result, you delivered an impressive performance with Ezreal in the second game, dealing massive damage and remaining deathless. And moving on to game 3, your early mid-roam play a critical role in that game. How did you set that up with Showmaker? So early on in that game, I was like, I can take Comet and I can go for a very aggressive trade and win the lane, and then I can make some room to the mid lane. So we had this kind of a communication early on. And the synergy between Aurora and Tristana was so impressive and also very stylish. How did you set up for this team fight with them? I mean, it was pretty hectic, everyone's just bouncing around. I was not expecting that follow-up from Tristana actually, but his reaction was so on point. We were able to get this kind of a montage moment. So with this Aurora performance, top Aurora secured wins in both 2 games. How do you rate this champion right now? I want to say Aurora is a double-edged sword. Sometimes it's an OP, but sometimes it's a little it's a little wonky. So if you watch the matches, sometimes when a stronger team plays it, Aurora looks really strong, but sometimes when a weaker team plays it, it looks a little bit, ineffective. So it depends on how it's kind of executed. So how would you like to rate your Aurora performance? Because you said you are always aiming for a machine-like performance. Was it machine-like today? Well, this machine got a little bit, it was a little bit malfunctioning in game 2, but Zephyr will successfully kind of reassemble the machine and make it properly function, so we managed to pick up another win in game 3. He usually just gave me a feedback around my team fight positioning and engages. And then we saw a little bit of a sigh of relief in front of the camera after the game. A big sigh of relief there. Not a very machine-like emotion though. And then Aiming pulled off the King N signature performance with flexing the muscles. Yeah, it kind of grew in me, so I thought it's kind of cool, so I stole it away from him. It's a trademark from King N, so I don't think I can completely steal it, but with this, I want to get a kind of a good insight of making my own signature celebration. And King N also mentioned, because he's the OG, he can't even come close. So let's take a look at the OG ceremony. The muscle flags from King N.
야, 오늘도 이렇게 멋진 승리를 가져가게 된 디플러스 기아입니다. 이제 정규 시즌도 단 2경기.
Now we only have 2 more matches to play in the regular season up against OK Savings Bank Brion and K2 Roaster. What are your resolutions for these 2 upcoming matches? Playoffs is just around the corner. I think regular season is important, but playoffs is way more important. So I think next week will be the final checkup of our own performance in order to perform even better at playoffs. I want to make sure to pick up both wins next week. I also think, because we're just about to have playoffs, it's going to be very important for us to get 2 wins in the remaining matches in order to kind of make sure that we have our best form in the playoffs. And this will be the end of the POD interview from King N and Aiming, and back to the space. Thank you.